saving America one mind at a time. This is Smyth Radio. And now, your hosts, Carrie and Brian Smyth.
It's made in America right here at the White House. We have all sorts of beautiful equipment and other items on the lawn, in the Rose Garden, all over the place. Made in America, it's the best.
This is where Trump lets us talk over his music.
Is this where he sues us for using his music? Oh, he would be nice about it.
Oh, of course he would be. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Smyth Radio. Your host, Brian Smyth, and
Carrie Smith. Giving
you all the late breaking news of last week, wrapping it all up, making sense of it all, explaining to you what the mainstream media won't explain. Telling you how it is, and giving you all the information over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all the media likes to hide those golden nuggets of information. And we've got an incredible show. We have an incredible show every Sunday. Listen to us 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern. You can join the show directly by going to smithradio.info. Right there, just go ahead and click on the title of the show, and it'll say live right next to it. Click on that, and you'll be able to see the message board. And the message board goes live, and everybody's talking. There's a lot of conversations going on. It's fast-moving, hot, heavy-hitting, hot stuff.
Hot stuff, huh?
Hot stuff.
Well, one of the things I wanted to do, I'm actually running a live Periscope right now, and the reason I did that was because we have a lot of followers on Twitter who like to see me cast and scope or whatever that may not know where we broadcast on Sunday, and it's on Spreaker.com. And the easiest way to get to our particular one is by going to smithradio.info. That's smythradio.info. And not only will that give you the live one if we're live, which we are right now, but it will also give you all the previous ones like podcasts. So that's the reason I'm doing the scope right now. It's not that I meant to do the radio show as a scope. I wanted to get this thing going on here. Make sure you guys share this, and then as soon as you do, people will say, "Oh, so I can listen to them on the smithradio.info," which is good. And of course, as Brian just said, we have an awesome thing going on with the message boards. A lot of people like to chat there, and it becomes like this alternate party thing. Like we become the background noise to their little party that they're having on the chat room. So that's great. So I would definitely, this is my invitation to everybody who catches this scope that I'm on right now to follow the rest of the show by going to smithradio.info right now. All right. So what do we got today?
Nothing. That's pretty much the show's over. Go home. Shut it down. All right, folks, just like the title of the show is, the number one word, the first word of the show is Scaramucci. I know you're all excited about Scaramucci, the pros and the cons, what he said, what he didn't say, what he deleted, what he delete, that didn't delete.
Did he delete? I think he's just proud of it.
Possibility, however, nobody's talking about 33,000 emails she deleted. You know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to touch on all kinds of stuff going on. Mick Mulvaney was big in the news this week with his shocking discovery of the remains. Okay, I'll leave it at that. The remains that Obama left behind that they dug up. Healthcare in the news coming up on this week. It's going to be really, really big. I got a lot of stuff on the healthcare. Scaramucci weighs in on healthcare. I know you're as sick as Russia as I am. I'm so sick of it, I think I'm going to just move to Russia by now.
I feel like we need to resurrect it.
We are going to resurrect Russia. We're going to talk about Russia a little bit. There's some breaking information that you need to know that will get out, especially with Robert Mueller running the
circus,
the anti-Trump.
It's a circus.
Right. So we're going to get in that. Reuters. Major fake news story, and they exposed themselves within the first 4 lines.
That's kind of surprising because of all the places that I bust distributing fake news. I don't know if I've caught Reuters. I'm sure I've seen fake news on Reuters, but what I'm saying is a lot of times they're not the source, or if they do something that is fake news, it's not something so egregious that it becomes big news. So,
yes, and Kickstand Rose, yes, you guys are the real show around here on the message board.
that's right. We're like the music at the grocery store.
Yeah, you know it's there and it makes you feel good.
You're there to buy groceries.
Right, so you guys are on the message board to hang out with each other and to
buy groceries.
pontificate. So we've got GOP and the DNC working together against Trump. Absolutely working together against Trump. Bipartisan deal voted on Tuesday. We'll get into that a little bit. Maxine Waters for president. Everybody.
Oh, my God.
Hashtag trend this one.
I'd like to tell you that I'm going to run for president.
She had a major malfunction this week. It was a glitch, like no glitch. I mean, you know how Rubio glitched.
Please vote for me.
Vote for me. Where am I? What?
Did she have a glitch?
Oh, major.
Do you have a soundbite of it?
Yeah, it's in the stack of stuff.
All right. We're going to hear some awesome glitching by Maxine Waters.
I've got an entire... See, I do an outline for the show before we do the show. And by the way, real quick, once again, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern, Smyth Radio, SMYTH, radio.com.
And don't forget to support us on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Smyth Radio until they delete our account like Lauren Southern.
Rest in peace, her account.
Right.
No, it's such a tragedy. The link for the Patreon account is in the description of the show. So go right to the description. It's in there. You can find us on iHeartRadio. Just search Smyth Radio, but put a space in between the two on iHeartRadio. Or go to the quick link, iHeart.smithradio.com. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, everywhere. We're all over the place.
All the places where they're going to delete us one day.
I even set up a Russian social media account for Smyth Radio.
That's going to come back and haunt us.
Let me tell you what, I've been listening to Russia Today lately.
Really?
They are so plain spoken, so common sense, so just...
They don't know the nuances of the language in order to lie properly.
Maybe that's what it is. So I've got an entire... Okay, so the outline for the show, I've got an entire section now called Fake News.
Okay. Does that mean we're giving you fake news or we're exposing fake news?
Exposing it.
Okay.
Not only we're exposing it, but Carrie quoted a tweet.
Oh my gosh!
24 hours ago.
I had no idea
that's gone sick, calling out fake media, fake news.
Yeah, and actually, there's a lot of Trump supporters that I know personally, or I have met at some point that I have a lot of respect for, that blasted me on it. But I defend myself pretty well. And,
yeah, no, definitely.
And we came to an agreement. So interesting. So we'll get to that later, right?
Yep.
Right.
Israel being bombed by Hamas again and again and again. Islam is pushing Muslims to commit heinous crimes beyond human belief.
Understanding.
Yeah, no, it's just absolutely insane. And if you don't follow Zero Hedge, ZeroHedge, Zero Hedge, and go to his website, zerohedge.com. Very, very good, solid news. I'd almost say as solid as any Patriot news that you could possibly find. The guy's just incredible.
He does real journalism, right?
Yes, absolutely real journalism.
Or is it like does he receives tips and stuff from people around the world and then he broadcasts it through?
Well, like there was a report from the AP that they put up, and he took that, took excerpts from that report, but then wrote an article about that and that situation with his intellect, his knowledge, and just kind of expanded upon it. So it was really good. And, I guess we'll just start off with the PSA, public service announcement. Folks, I was on YouTube, and I know you guys are on YouTube as well, and you probably heard this. Just before the show was about to start that I'm about ready to watch, it was something on Fox News. Might have been Lou Dobbs, really getting into some good, healthy information. A commercial comes up, and after 30 seconds, it allows me to skip it. But as soon as I heard it, I said, whoa, 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 whoa.
You wanted to hear the rest of it.
I need to hit the record button.
Oh, you didn't just want it. You wanted to keep it.
So this is this week's PSA, brought to you from lynchinginamerica.esj.com. I don't know.
I don't believe we're free in America. I think we're haunted by our history of racial inequality. We're burdened by this legacy created by slavery and lynching and segregation. And whether you're born in 2017 or 1930, you are affected by the environment that we have created by being silent. I don't think slavery ended in 1865. I think it evolved.
What? Come on.
Mobs of thousands of people gathering in courthouse yards, in fields, and doing horrific things to people, and we haven't done anything to acknowledge that.
Now, you haven't acknowledged it, Carrie.
History, and for us to recover
Embrace yourself
from that
recover.
violence, from that terrorism, we
terrorism.
all have to know it, and we have to talk about it. This project in particular, it's a project about tearing down those boundaries. Google has a kind of expertise.
Google is helping them.
About information, and they've been able to take what we know about lynching and what we have heard from the families who we have spent time with, and make that knowledge accessible to a lot more people.
Yeah, because nobody knows about it.
I think it will compel us to think differently about what we need to do to correct the past, to address the past, but also how we make a better future.
Okay, so when he opens up the Google,
I am so glad that he has exposed this, because it has been totally in hiding. I must admit, I was unaware at the quantity of mass lynchings that have been happening in America.
Well, Google
of slaves,
right,
because slavery hasn't ended; it actually evolved. So slavery is a lot worse now than it was before the Emancipation Proclamation, based on what this guy's saying.
Correct. And Google is assisting them. And when you watch the video, you see the Google Earth map of America pop up, and then red is all over the east and the west, and all over the south. You see all these red dots, so it's like covered in red. And then what pops up, and you got to be really quick to see this. What pops up is a little information bar that tells you what the red means, and it's reported lynchings.
Reported lynchings. Okay, so if somebody reports a lynching, that becomes a stat.
A little red dot on the American map.
Do you know what would happen in this country if a single lynching of a black man?
It happened. So they painted the entire America map red.
Was it because the pixels were so big that it just covered the whole map? Who got lynched? Let me tell you something. Everybody listening knows this. If one single solitary person was lynched in the past, 10 years? And it could be somehow construed to be based on racism, it would be worse than Rodney King.
So Vanessa on the message board said, so all those soldiers, and I'm going to put in words. So all those guys in the Civil War that were white died for nothing. How sad.
Well,
she's right.
I mean, I have a great, maybe 3 grades, grandfather who fought for the North, for Ohio. And I have another one that fought for Indiana too, both North. But the one has records in the archives in Washington of receiving a special pension of some sort based on the fact that he was wounded in battle. So he took a bullet for the cause.
Wow.
It's about abolition.
And we're not gonna, I'm not going to rehash the whole Civil War and this whole civil rights thing, but just know that the propaganda is out there. Young children's minds full of mush that are scouring the YouTubes of tubes. Oh, this is the garbage
that they're taking in.
Advertisements that they're going to see.
Speaking of YouTube and speaking of the video that you just played, he said something there that the only way that we're going to get past all these lynchings and all the slavery that we've evolved into since the 1860s is to talk about it. We need to recognize and talk about these lynchings that are happening and all these slaves that we have in America. And so I just want to point out an old video. This has got to be maybe 15 years old, possibly. I'm not exactly sure when, but this is Morgan Freeman, a black man. And
I almost pulled that one up. Good for you.
His opinion on it. Let's see if we can get it to play.
Black History Month, you find.
Do you hit the?
Oh, somebody turned it way down. Let's start over again. So he was asked about racism, and let's see what he says.
Black History Month, you find.
Ridiculous.
Why?
You're going to relegate my history to a month?
Oh, come on.
What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? No, come on, tell me.
Well, I'm Jewish.
I'm a Jew.
Okay, which month is Jewish History Month?
There isn't one.
Can't back out of the corner, lib.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No.
I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history.
Yep.
How are we going to get rid of racism?
Stop talking about it.
Did you just hear that?
How are we going to get rid of it?
The guy that Brian just played a couple minutes ago said the way we have to get rid of racism is to talk about it. Morgan Freeman just said, he just answered the question, how are we going to get rid of racism? And what did he say? Stop talking about it. And he expands a little bit on it. Listen to this.
I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man. I know you as Mike Wallace. You know me as Morgan Freeman.
And that's it. That's it.
Need no more.
Stop talking about it. Stop referring to a guy who has darker skin than you, maybe brown skin, totally brown, as a member of a group. And why would we do that? Isn't it possible that a man of African ancestry could possibly not really have any connection culturally to the black culture, if you will, or from a whole other group, giant group, a majority of black people, because maybe he was raised differently, maybe he's of a different culture, and so it's unacceptable in America. It has to be talked about. If you have that skin, you have to be referred to as a person of that culture. And that's just not even, that's the definition of racism as far as I'm concerned. Just like if, because I have white skin, they're like, oh, look at the white boy over there. What, are you going to go play tennis today? You got your golf clubs? Well, maybe I was raised in a integrated school in an inner city, which actually I was. You know, so you don't know my culture, but you can't, if you assume it based on my skin color, that's where you're going to go wrong. So interesting way to start the show off.
What was that movie that they made where the white kid was like born and raised in Beverly Hills, but he spoke like a thug in the hood, and he even said that, you know, no, I'm a gangster, I'm a rapper, but it wasn't. It was so sad. It was so sad. If anybody knows, please tweet it.
I don't even know what that's in reference to. How old would it be? Like 90s or 80s?
Yeah,
or?
90s.
90s, yeah. I don't know. Jamie Foxx?
No, comedian, Jamie, white guy.
Oh, I have no idea.
All
idea.
right, anyways,
Sorry, I wish I could.
matter.
I'm usually good with the movie references, but I blew it there because I have not seen that movie. I know Soul Man was from the 80s. That was an attack on affirmative action because he couldn't get into the college he wanted to get into because he was white.
That's right.
So
I remember that movie.
Blackface.
Could you do that today? Remake that movie today?
It would be impossible.
Could you remake
Sadly.
that movie today?
Sadly, that would be impossible. I don't even think that you could find that movie in a place that sells movies. It might be illegal. It might have been banned. First Amendment, folks. First Amendment. Malibu's Most Wanted. Oh, gosh. Leave it up to Brian. And by the way, it says 2003, so it's a little bit newer than 90s. That sounds horrible. The fact that I have never heard that title before in my life, and I'm kind of a movie buff, tells you something.
A senator arranges for his son, a rich white kid who fancies himself black, to be kidnapped by a couple of black actors pretending to be murderers to scare him white.
Okay. Oh, so painful. Why don't we just stop talking about it?
Sorry.
No, I think that Morgan Freeman has it right, but the problem is that these race hustlers who would be responsible for the commercial, that the PSA that Brian played, don't want to end racism. It would be devastating to their pocketbook for racism to end, or devastating to their career. Maybe they've built this career around it. And so, they got to call Morgan Freeman and Uncle Tom and all that. But they don't because those little tidbits, those little nuggets that come out of somebody like a Morgan Freeman, they don't come out very often. And he's not a champion for ending racism. And that's an old video. That right there.
They took him to the woodshed after that.
Yeah, he's actually a victim of the woodshed multiple times. You remember he was the narrator for a great show on the Discovery Channel called Through the Wormhole.
Right. I love that show.
Episode 1, Season 1 was all about the existence of God. And if you watch the whole thing, which you won't now because they have scrubbed the universe of that episode. If you watch the whole thing, the conclusion was, by the end of that 2-hour episode, that God does exist. They pretty much proved it by deduction. And they took him to the woodshed because several episodes later, it might have been the next season, I think it was several episodes later, they came out with a new Is God Real episode.
Oh.
And they concluded in that episode that God wasn't real. And now when you search episode 1, season 1, episode 1 of Through the Wormhole, almost impossible to find. So Morgan Freeman's been taken to the woodshed more than once.
Kekistan Rose on the message board says, remake Blazing Saddles today.
Yeah, that's there's a lot of them. There's a lot of movies that
Hashtag Smith Lord Blazing Saddles.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
Well, let's just film it.
You're going to get...
Oh, my God.
So you play the one part, I'll play the other.
Okay. All right. So what's next?
Mel Brooks,
now that we're done with the PSA, are we working backwards through this now? Venezuela? We'll get to that at the end.
Okay.
So what happened this week? Anything? We got
Mick Mulvaney stumbles upon some remnants, some leftover of the Obama administration. I don't know a whole lot about this. I just know a little bit about it because our White House correspondent, Shalyn Gorman, who is indisposed right now.
Oh, unable to join us?
She can't make the show.
Okay.
We talked a little bit earlier before the show.
So we'll just have to relay her reporting.
Right. And if you go to blog.smithradio.com, that's our blog site, you will see the articles that she's been writing as the White House correspondent in the White House, hanging out with what was Spicy, but now is
Sarah
Huckabee.
Yeah, Sarah
Huckabee Sanders.
Yeah, Sanders.
Yeah, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, hanging out with her, and then obviously Scaramucci this week. So Mick Mulvaney discovered 860 hidden Obama regulations. There are regulations that, by law, they're supposed to be out in the open and everybody's supposed to be allowed to see them.
I think
by
regulations
law.
are unconstitutional, but we can get in that in a minute.
Right. So they've discovered that these 860 regulations were hidden, stuck away, so that possibly nobody would ever find them. I find that hard to believe. I mean, there's too many people who work for the government, and you're going to find somebody sooner or later that, hey,
these are the
minute.
same people that are committing felonies right now as we speak by leaking every single thing they possibly can, including secret and privileged information directly from the White House and other places of importance in D.C. Those were the people that you're talking about.
Right.
They're going to keep this thing totally secret. And by the way, I'm assuming Brian remembers this, but I'm going to jog his memory.
I got a pretty good memory. I got a pretty good one. Yeah.
What was probably the one straw that broke the camel's back in the day when I said we have got to start doing a show? and we are starting Sunday. This Sunday, episode 1, season 1 of Smyth Radio. There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of things. I remember one of the things was, gosh, Rush Limbaugh's getting kind of old. Who's going to replace him? I'm afraid that the message might get muddled out and die and whatever if he goes away. That was one little thing. But the straw that broke the camel's back was that week a report came out from somewhere, and it was relayed to us, I think through my dad, that there were thousands of regulations that each individual one, these were Obama regulations, they were signed, they were executive orders, that's what it was, executive orders that were signed by Obama, that if you looked at each and every one individually, they look a little bit questionable, but you're like, okay. But zoom out and look at all of the executive orders in their totality, and it appeared as though he was setting up what pretty much amounted to a shadow government in order for him to announce that he's going to abolish the presidency and
25th Amendment. Circumvent the 25th Amendment and stay POTUS. He would be the premier of the USSA for life. And the executive orders, because there were some executive orders that didn't even make any sense. Like, why would you make an executive order like this? But if you combine it with other executive orders, it looked like he was setting up the dominoes in order for him to take over and turn it into a full-blown communist nation where he had a totalitarian communist nation where he would be the premier, just like the USSR back in the day. And that may be... And possibly today.
That might be a tinfoil hat, black helicopter thought.
But we got fired up.
But the executive orders existed.
Well, not only that, but if you remember a guy named Hugo Chavez...
Yeah.
He was elected democratically, not by the Democrat Party, but democratically.
Well, they would have elected him if the Democrat Party was involved.
Correct. Electedly democratically, and then circumvented the Constitution in Venezuela to make himself a permanent dictator.
That's exactly how Hitler did it.
Right.
Hitler was elected.
And we're seeing Obama doing this.
Yeah. Hitler was elected democratically, and then abolished the I don't know what they called a presidency or whatever, and just became the Führer for life.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the whole thought was, and this was tinfoil hat stuff back in the day. I mean, we're seeing it right now as being real. We're really finding some deep, dark, nasty things that are going on in the deep state. There's no doubt about that. But back 4 years ago, we were thinking, oh my goodness, I can't believe he won in 2012. I mean, it's just stolen right out from underneath us. The GOP is working against us, which we know that now, again and again.
Right.
Ryan, Romney, just a complete nightmare. Thank you very much.
And we know that McCain, having won, first of all, didn't it seem strange with that giant field that was running in 2012? 2008. That McCain won that in 2008.
Do you know what? Well,
there were so many people that had better name recognition, more popularity, were better spokespeople. They just were better,
articulate and clean.
And then all of a sudden, the first couple primaries go through and caucuses, and McCain is like taking an early lead, and everybody in the whole nation is like, wow, what's up with these people in Iowa and New Hampshire and all these other early states? Are they that stupid? Well, it kind of makes you wonder, now that we know that he's a full-blown compromised Democrat / whatever, that, he may have been a fall guy for a future first black president. And then you got Romney, who... remember that speech he came out with, just destroying Trump right in the middle of his candidacy in 2016? He was the GOP nominee in 2012. What the heck is going on here? It's just nuts.
Right, and we came up with different theories and different ideas that, okay, so the runner-up that loses will be the next one.
Right.
And
well, that's kind of deconstructing the previous several.
Right.
It always looked like that GOP voters tend to give the next person in line their due.
And now I'm not the first person to say this, and I may have heard this from Rush Limbaugh, I may have heard this from anywhere, but I absolutely agree with the person who said it first, that the mainstream media back in the day sold us John McCain. They had a huge hand in getting
definitely.
the general population to love and behold. And
the way they treated Sarah Palin, you could tell they picked her to bring the conservative base along and get them to support McCain, but they only did it for that reason because they hated her. The McCain's and all of his handlers and everybody involved there, they didn't really want somebody that was actually going to try to make America great, which is what Sarah Palin, definitely that was on her mind.
And looking back, some of the things that she said recently, looking back, she said all these things that I would like to have said this and exposed Obama for who he was, but I wasn't allowed to. I wanted to do this. I wanted this. You can see why the friction between Palin and McCain was absolutely volatile, because he was 100%, and we know it, establishment. God rest his soul, and the brain cancer tumor that he has. Okay, I don't wish for anybody to die.
He's not resting yet.
Oh.
You don't God rest his soul unless he's gone.
Oh.
But he's in trouble. He's in trouble.
And
I wasn't really sure, but it sounds like it's a really bad medical issue.
Yeah, and someone had said this was the second time that he had gotten cancer. Okay, I wish
he had melanoma like 5 times, like a whole bunch of times.
Jeez, I wish no ill against anybody. I don't want nobody. We said all the time, I do not want Obama to die. No, I don't want anybody to die. I would just like John McCain to go away. Please go away. You should have spent the rest of your life. I know you got 200 days of vacation per year, but you could have spent the other 165 days plus your 200 days of vacation. The whole year, you could have spent that enjoying your family.
And Arizona's a nice place.
Right. Instead of screwing with us and screwing up the Make America Great agenda. I digress. So, John McCain, truly deep in the deep... not the deep state, but he's truly a establishment. We'll do whatever it takes to make it happen.
If he became president, he would have worked very well with the deep state.
Oh, absolutely. It's been horrible for all of us. And juxtaposition, Sarah Palin, who is, for all intents and purposes, a true
she's a
patriot.
She's a Tea Party person. And
did you see her in the bathing suit with a shotgun?
I thought that was Photoshop.
I don't know.
You don't care. You don't care.
It don't make no never mind.
Wow. I want to say something about it, but I don't get in trouble. I got to try to keep it clean for the kiddies out there.
You all know what I'm talking about.
I wanted to say something about Gmail, but...
Right.
Anyway. We're going to get in trouble.
So as we move
Sorry
further
about
along,
that, folks. Just I couldn't help myself. So what else happened?
Okay, so as we're talking about deep state, we're talking about what's going on. I'm talking about GOP, some of this just horrible things that are going on. Lou Dobbs had some scathing things to say about the GOP this week. And for our first soundbite of the night, third soundbite of the night, this is Lou Dobbs talking about Congress, the House, the Senate, Paul Ryan, Lion Ryan, and Mitch, I've lost my mind, McConnell. I don't even know where I am. Where am I?
Senate Majority Leader McConnell failing the president and his party on health care twice in less than 24 hours, despite having 7 years to prepare for this legislative moment.
We worked hard to provide them with a better way. We did so in the knowledge that this task would not be easy. We understood it would not come quickly.
I mean, can you believe that blather? And McConnell with that blather way slogan remark again. McConnell and Ryan apparently love that hollow, puerile slogan. As for the Speaker, he's boasting that he's proud the House was able to pass its own repeal and replace bill. He does look better thanks to McConnell in the Senate. Conflict, however, between McConnell and Ryan, not helpful to the Republican Party. But then neither is the Speaker nor the Majority Leader themselves. Of course, Ryan failed to garner votes for the bill back in March before it barely passed, then in May. That's certainly not a lot to crow about, but crow about it, Ryan did. A new analysis from The Week magazine shows some 238 bills have passed the House. They're currently held up in the Senate. Just 13 of those, however, we're told have even a 50% chance of reaching the president's desk, that according to GovTrack. And putting this Congress on track to be the most unproductive in nearly 165 years, an honor of their own making.
And they're Republican.
And it's already taking a toll. A new Bloomberg survey shows just 34% of voters view Speaker Ryan favorably, a 13-point decline since December. And a recent Fox News poll showing McConnell's favorability has fallen to 25%. And now the two losing leaders have to be moved aside, in my opinion. They've been unhelpful, they've been ineffective, and they lack true leadership qualities and a quality leadership record. And they have no bond with President Trump nor his agenda. It is time they removed themselves or were simply removed from the top GOP legislative post.
Yeah, there you go. Remove them now. I mean, what else do you say?
It's apparent to me now, hearing that and kind of listening to it kind of broken down that way, that they are part of the resistance. They're just, how are you going to be labeled the most unproductive Senate in over 100 years at the same time that the Democrats have turned into domestic terrorists called the resistance, who are going to usurp the will of the people by ignoring and acting like it didn't happen, a Democratic election of Donald Trump.
Right.
And so they joined the resistance, the Senate, the Republican-led Senate, and they did a very good job of keeping it secret. But when you hear how unproductive they are in comparison to all the Senates of the last 100 years, how could they not say, hey, we have a Republican Congress. We have both House and Senate, both Republican majority. And now we have a very, very busybody Republican president. Wouldn't that be the recipe for being anything other than the least productive Congress in the last 100 years?
165. That takes us all the way back to where somebody put up a meme.
To back when slavery wasn't as bad as it is now.
Right. They put up a meme that said, liberals and Democrats have not been this angry since us Republicans took their slaves away from them.
Oh, that's a you know what? You know why that triggers them? Because it's so truthful. It's so true. Yes, man, were they mad when we took their slaves away.
Yeah.
Oh, they're such bad human beings. So yeah, I mean, think about it. How could we have like majorities everywhere? How on earth could this be the least productive Congress ever, or Senate? Do you say Senate or Congress?
Both. Combined.
All
of them.
Well, at least the House passed a repeal and replace bill. The Senate is just like, okay, I'll see yours, and I'll not show you.
I'll not raise you.
I'll not raise you. I will not raise you a Senate bill at all. Now, here's the thing. Here's my prediction. I had some inside information by somebody that told me they would call in and explain themselves, but I doubt that's going to happen. But my inside sources 2 weeks ago was that Senate will pass a health care bill. And of course, that's since imploded due to Mike Lee coming out and saying, ain't going to do it. Not going to do it.
You know, it blows my mind.
We've got to be prudent.
They talked about Mike Lee and the reason why he didn't want to pass this. And this is going to blow your mind.
Because he's from Utah?
He's retarded.
Okay.
The way that it's set up with the exchanges that are failing, what's going to happen is going to be like capitalist market where it's going to be open market, and there's one minor thing. First off, if Lee voted for what it is now, if Lee went ahead and voted for what it is now, then the average person would save $6,000 a year on their premiums. If he held out and wanted this one thing to change, people would save $6,800 on their premiums. So Mike Lee is holding out for an extra $800 per family per year. You can't get everything you want. You can't get it all. And to sacrifice it for $800 $100. My man. We got people dying in the streets. Hide your children. Hide your husbands. Everybody getting ranked up in here.
Yeah, I think that it's I've heard somebody say this before, and I'm glad somebody finally said it. Sorry I can't remember who it was, but I'll just repeat it. I just don't want to take credit for it.
Oh, okay.
There is this disconnect. I mean, a massive chasm between what the senators and, in some cases, representatives in the House are thinking they should do and how they're feeling about what they should do with regards to health care and whether they should pass it or whether or not it's right or whether they should change it or whether they should hold out or whether they should negotiate more or whether they should just wait till next year or wait till after the 2018 elections. That there's a chasm between that thing going on there in Congress and what the effects of that are on the ground with normal, everyday, middle-class workers like you and me and lower middle-class people who are just trying to do something, get a foothold, a fingerhold on something. Everybody, even upper middle class who, you think, oh, upper middle class, they got it good. Well, a lot of times upper middle class people have it the worst because a lot of them tend to purchase what they could afford. And when all of a sudden they don't qualify for a lot of the stuff that the lower middle class people do under these crazy laws like Obamacare. So they end up spending like $2,500 a month on health care, and they have like a $15,000 deductible. Meanwhile, they might have a $2,500 house payment.
Right.
So they're really going to be hurting. And then they're going to end up foreclosing or whatever. They're going to have to move to a smaller house or they're going to have to go get a job somewhere else. And their community gets affected and housing prices in their neighborhood go down and the whole thing. So all of us, upper middle class, middle class, lower middle class, we're all hurting. The only people that this really benefited were this tiny sliver of the population that were not quite poor enough to just be on Medicaid, but they were young, so they didn't need any kind of health insurance. Everybody should have some sort of health insurance.
Right.
But they were not very likely to come down with a disease or something like that compared to older people or people that are in families or whatever. So these are like single young people. And they're not covered because they don't want to, and they make too much money to just fall on health care or Medicaid. So it's this tiny sliver of young people who make enough money that they don't qualify for that. And so those were the couple million of people that were not covered under any kind of health care who were then covered under Obamacare, and it came at the expense of millions and millions. And don't let any articles or statistics lie to you. They're going to lie and say, oh, it was like 200,000 or oh, it was like 1 million. Many millions of people, trust me, were forced to have to drop off strategically for economic reasons.
Right.
Because it doesn't make any sense to pay, let's say, I'll round it to $1,000 a month. When your mortgage
for total of $12,000 a year.
Yeah. So $1,000 a month, which is, let's say, higher than your mortgage payment because you have like maybe a starter home, and you have like a $7,000 deductible, and you don't even have $7,000 sitting in a savings account anywhere. So why not just think about it? You get a catastrophic problem, you're out $7,000, and that doesn't include the $1,000 a month that you're paying.
Right.
So strategically, it made more sense to cancel insurance totally, save the $1,000 a month, at least for 7 months, so you could put that $1,000 in a savings account. Then you could re-up it after that if you want. Or you could not re-up it. Catastrophe happens. You show up at the emergency room, and they'll treat you anyway.
They always have.
And then file for bankruptcy after that when they send you the bill.
Or just tell them, say, hey, get in line, have bad credit for the rest of your life.
How is this good for any one individual, and collectively, how is this good for America?
It's not. Absolutely, it's not. Not only that, but the libtards are screaming all week, you veterans better listen up. This health care will ruin you.
How?
You veterans are going to get ruined.
How?
I'm just saying that's what they...
making it up.
Yes.
Just like every other thing.
Because they're trying to divide Trump from his base. That is their number one objective.
Nobody believes them anymore. No. In fact, it's become a game. Guys listening, telling you, don't you do this. I do. Maybe it's just my personality. I don't know if other people do this. I know there's definitely some people on Twitter to do this. As soon as somebody in fake stream media says anything, either on Twitter or as an article that they posted on whatever website, it could be CNN.com or whatever, it doesn't matter what the headline is, doesn't matter what is said, doesn't matter what the tweet is. It becomes a game to dissect all the ways that it's lying to you.
Right. Right.
It becomes a fun little game like, oh, let's see how you're lying to us.
That's what we do. We do that for you so you don't have to do that. Kekistan Rose on the message board. Folks, if you want to be live on the message board with us, join us every Sunday evening, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Smyth Radio, Military Veteran Talk Radio. Carrie was in the United States Marine Corps, and I was in the Air Force. And we kind of come at it with a couple different perspectives, but we both are grounded in reality and truth, searching always for the truth. Kekistan Rose is on the message board live right now, and I made the commented back on Sean Hannity's show this past week.
Right.
They talked about this doctor, hashtag AtlasMD, $50 a month for adults and $10 a month for children. Unlimited visits, all procedures done in office for no extra charge. And the doctor actually negotiates the medication for you down 90% off the retail price. X-rays for $2.
How is that even possible?
No need for insurance other than catastrophic care.
That's like cheaper than a round in my AR-15.
you know, that's kind of, it's ironic. There is a commercial here in Cincinnati that runs nonstop on AM Talk Radio 550 that you can get all your X-rays, all your information, everything you need for $395. That's all you need. And I'm thinking to myself, hell no, that's so... I've never paid that much money. Never. But then you realize if you got the x-rays and all the stuff done and your insurance is like, nah, you didn't need that. You need to pay for that.
Oh, hell no.
That's like $1,200 to $1,500. These x-ray technicians with white lab coats and leather jockstraps.
Whoa! Wow!
Lead lined.
Oh, lead lined
leather.
Wow, what were you thinking?
I was thinking like a leather pouch and it would hold the lead in there. You know, like a big pocket of lead.
You got brass balls.
Anywho, yeah, so you got these lab coat technicians. I actually knew one. That's why I'm making fun of him.
Oh, my mother-in-law is a X-ray.
Okay, well, I'm not making fun of her. I'm just making fun of this one. He would walk around in his white lab coat, looks like a doctor. With a stethoscope.
Oh, that's so...
And he would hang the stethoscope from his rearview mirror, like Fuzzy Dice, but stethoscope.
And he wasn't a doctor.
No, he drove a used 4Runner. It's like 10 years old, a little bit beat up.
Okay.
Toyota 4Runner.
Yeah. Did you take it off-roading or?
No, I'm just saying. I mean, if you were a doctor, an MD, you're not driving a 10-year-old 4Runner. And that's your only mode of transportation. It's not happening, man. Sorry.
I agree with you on that.
And I even made the comment. I'm like, is he a doctor? And then finally they let me in on it. He's like, no, man.
He's an anesthesiologist.
No.
He's not?
Yeah, he is. Like Bill Cosby.
Oh, is he an anesthesiologist?
Yes, sir.
I didn't know that.
Yes, Bill Cosby.
You mean amateur? He was an amateur anesthesiologist. Oh.
Homebrew, practicing in the basement.
See, for those of you that are younger, you don't know that I was thinking Brian was referring to his character, Mr. Huxtable, Dr. Huxtable, on the show, because he was a doctor in the Cosby Show.
That's right.
Yeah, with the sweaters.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. And I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
That's how he got all those prescription meds.
Wow.
They saw Cosby and they're like, Doctor. Anyway. So.
As I digress, let's back that bus up.
By the way, best movie you've never seen, Spies Like Us. And the reason I say never seen,
Doctor,
because people that aren't like our age or maybe a little older don't know about it. Great movie.
This was back before when...
it was like 86. It was a long time ago.
What's his face? Became
Chase.
No, another one.
Dan Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd. Before Dan Aykroyd became really nuts.
Nuts?
He's real goofy now.
He may have always been goofy. He was goofy in Ghostbusters. He played himself in Ghostbusters.
Yeah, okay. All right. So he's always
Ray
been goofy.
Stantz.
Jeez.
Yeah, I have it on Blu-ray, so.
Okay, sweet. So as we're talking about nothing happening, nothing going on, we're talking about healthcare. I guess that's what we're talking about.
Dude, did you see what Kekistan wrote? Excuse me, ma'am. Does this cloth smell like chloroform?
Why, yes, it... There you go. So on Deface The Nation, let's get in a little Scaramucci. Scaramucci, who's now taken over as White House communications director, who claims that...
Who had that job before? I feel like that was Scavino. Wasn't he communications or no? Was it social media director?
Social media director.
Well, that's what he was in the campaign. I don't know. I look all this stuff.
Yeah, Elwood Blues is a good movie too as well. Elwood playing Elwood in Blues Brothers, very good movie as well. So on Deface The Nation, Scaramucci is now all over the place doing shows everywhere. He's doing shows on CNN with Jake Tapper. By the way, I am honored. Thank you, Jack. Jake Tapper has blocked me at Brian P. Smith on Twitter.
Tapper. It's Jake Tapper.
Jake Tapper, tapeworm Tapper. No.
Mike Cernovich. Mike Cernovich will not. He refuses to pronounce his name properly.
Do you know that's the biggest insult ever?
But I don't know what. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know what the inside joke is there. I wish I knew. But every single time Mike Cernovich says Jake Tapper, he calls him Jack Tapper. Jack Tapper instead of Jake Tapper.
I don't get it.
He flips it every single time. I feel like there's a joke there that I missed, but
and it's one of those things you feel like you don't want to ask because then now you're not in the know.
Oh yeah, Mike would be like, dude, you don't know what, and then he would walk away.
If I have to explain this to you, bruh.
Yeah.
Anyway. So Scaramucci is all over the place. He's doing shows on CNN with Jake Tapper.
Yeah, no, and I'll set this. You have a soundbite, right?
What we're doing Deface The Nation. The one you sent me, the link? Yeah. I got that one queued up.
So I didn't know much about him. Everybody's talking about Scaramucci, everything, this, that, and the other thing, and they're all praising him. And meanwhile, I'm just totally off the reservation because I haven't been I didn't do research on who he was, what kind of person he was. So I was kind of getting the information from you all by reading your tweets, and that's fine. But finally this morning, he was on Deface The Nation. And John Dickerson was interviewing him.
Yeah, Dick Dickerson.
So this was the first time I got to see his performance, like how he behaves, how he works in action under the spotlight while he's under pressure and people are asking him tough questions because the liars at Deface The Nation will definitely put the truth tellers under pressure, which is what I expected. And I was very impressed with what I saw, and Brian has a clip. It was a 12-minute section, but we got the best part of it here.
I've got 3. I took what you had, and then I just let it roll out. So I got 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So if something happened, you're like, okay, that's it, then we'll cut it there. So 12.
Let me ask you finally on the question of mixed messages. This week, the president has said 3 different things about health care. On the 17th, he said Republicans should repeal the failing Obamacare bill and then start with a clean state. On the 18th, he said, let Obamacare fail. On the 19th, he said, the country needs more than repeal. It needs repeal and replace. That's 3 different messages over 3 days. Isn't the president's message muddled?
No, not at all. You see, look, this is the thing we got. I hope we can do this for the president. I hope we can explain what he's doing and explain what he's thinking. And I hope that what you'll start to realize, which is very refreshing to the American people, he's signaling over the top of the mainstream media. So let's go over each of those tweets. He basically wants to repeal and replace Obamacare. He knows that's the best thing for the American people. It turns out that he may not be able to get that done with a recalcitrant Congress. And so then he fires out a tweet, let's just repeal it. Then it turns out, because he's working super hard, he's probably the most effective legislative liaison person in the world, he may get the chance to repeal and replace it. So then he's sending out that tweet. His point is he's a business person. He's got a Rubik's Cube on his desk, basically, that he has to spin through.
I thought it was 4D chess.
There's so many confusing people in Washington. And he's trying to figure out if he can get his objectives done, which are to repeal and replace Obamacare.
But the members of Congress working on this bill,
there's a lot of different interests there, sir.
But the senators working on the bill right now have no idea what his position is. He's beating them up on the one hand, then he's saying they should do this and that. I guess that's the point, is that the message is mixed to them.
There's not one person in Washington that doesn't know the president's position. And if there is, and hopefully they watch your show because you got a great show, he would like to repeal and replace Obamacare. That's what he would like to do. If you're going to stop him from doing that, the next best thing would be to repeal Obamacare. If you're not going to repeal and replace Obamacare, then the third best thing is to let it implode. Because if you let it implode, there'll be a big enough crisis. And unfortunately, in this town called Washington, these politicians respond better to crises than they do to just practical problem solving, which we could do right now before the implosion. So I think on a gradient, that's what the president's saying, John.
Will the president get what he wants next week? Will it pass?
I don't know if he's going to get what he wants next week, but he's going to get what he wants eventually, because this guy always gets what he wants, okay? What I know about President Trump is that the world, he's got very, very good karma. He's very, very good to the people that are super close to him. Look at how great his kids turned out. You can't fake good kids. And the world turns back to President Trump. And so my prediction is he's going to get exactly what he wants. He's going to get health care reform. He's going to get tax reform. And he's going to start to put the deregulatory pillars in place so that our businesses and our economies can grow again. Community banks can start lending again. And the people that I grew up with, the people in my neighborhood that have been struggling with low income and low wages, are going to see a burst in economic activity. And he's going to get reelected.
Boom. I mean, did you hear what he did? First of all, my initial impression of him was, God, this guy's cooler than a cucumber.
Pretty much.
He's smooth, and he's not going to get rattled. Notice how he called him a liar and then made up for such an insult by saying, you got a great show. Right? He did. He said, that's not true, but he didn't. He said it in such a way that it didn't sound like he was getting combative. But when you tell somebody, if the first thing out of your mouth after the mainstream media says something that's fake news is that's not true, usually the sparks are going to start flying. But he did it so cool and calm and collected, and he went right into complimenting his show and then went on to say that, Donald Trump's going to get reelected. Notice how he had a perfect answer for what John Dickerson was trying to say. Look, we don't know what's coming out of the White House. Nobody knows what's coming out of the White House because he keeps on contradicting himself. But he rightly pointed out, and I would have been able to do this, but I'm not the communications director. I'm just your favorite radio host. Second favorite behind Brian here.
You're my favorite. You're my favorite.
Okay, so I'm Brian's favorite. And that is that there's no disconnect. They're totally consistent with each other. All three of the tweets that John Dickerson read were totally consistent. You have to take it into context. These idiots, these morons in the mainstream media, they'll read a tweet and then they'll read another tweet and they'll say, look, these two things are at odds with each other.
Yes.
But they're too stupid to realize that he was actually tweeting in response to something that happened, right?
Correct.
So the first tweet was what he wanted, which was repeal and replace. But he's ignoring the fact that Mike Lee and a couple of his friends made the repeal and replace impossible, at least for the time being. So then he comes out and says, well, how about just repeal? So there was a change.
Right.
And John Dickerson is trying to get the low information voters who believe in this false narrative called fake stream media that there was nothing that happened that caused the two different tweets that look like they're at odds with each other. But in fact, he's taken it out of context of the real world, which is something happened that caused him to make a new tweet that sounds like it's at odds with the previous one. No, he's responding to things changing on the ground. And so Anthony Scaramucci did an awesome job of explaining how they're actually consistent with each other. So that's what happens when you listen to fake stream media. You either have to marvel at the ignorance and the skill with which they propagandize low information voters.
Like, I don't really think that they're this smart, though. I don't think they're this smart at doing it.
It sounds like he's an idiot from us, because we know. I mean, think about it. Think about how many times, it's like, imagine, I don't know, an NFL player saying, we're going to win today. We are going to win. And then later on tweeting, I really wish we didn't lose today. And then John Dickerson saying, look at these two tweets. Let me read these two tweets for you. Can you explain why they're in, they don't seem to.
They're in contrast to each other.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I don't understand. You're tweeting these things that they don't mesh together. At one point you're saying we're going to win, and another thing you're apologizing for losing. I mean, how do you explain this?
How do you expect your fans to not be confused?
Yeah, I mean, they've got to be totally confused.
And just walk away from you.
I mean,
nobody's buying your jersey now. Nobody.
Yeah, because you're a loser. Oh my gosh. Now, I'm not calling Donald Trump a loser. I'm just saying that something changed that would cause him to go from saying we're going to repeal and replace to, well, then let's just repeal. And then something else changed, which caused the third one, which is we're just going to let it implode. And that is because it's totally consistent all the way back to day one, because he has always said that if nothing is done about Obamacare, it's just going to implode. And finally, it looks like something's going to happen because the House passes a bill. The Senate looks like it's going to be taken serious. The states have been told, we are going to pass this. And they start ramping up all the policies that they have to ramp up in order to
receive it.
Yeah. It's like foreplay.
Right.
Anyway, so they receive it, and or they were prepping to receive it, and now they have blue balls.
Right, because they're waiting for it to happen, and there's like, we got McCain sick, and
Mike Lee is like, you know what? Mike Lee is literally telling his constituents
he's hanging out with Glenn Beck. You know that, right?
Oh yeah, he was. In fact, Beck was the first one to get an interview. He was the first person to get the interview with Mike Lee after he announced that he's screwing over the workers and middle-class people of America by letting them stay on either a completely unaffordable healthcare system or not insured at all.
Okay, so check this out. This is from Donald Trump. The White House put a meme together, and this is what it said underneath it, and said go to whitehouse.gov for more information. But these are the talking points, if you will. This is what Trump wants to make happen with health care and how it's going to make it great again. It's just bullet points. Reduce the cost by enforcing immigration laws. Wow. That in itself, the laws that are on the books, that in itself would drive cost of health care down if we did not cover illegals, those jumping the border, those running across the border, those here illegally, them, their family, their children. I mean, we're talking millions and millions of people. Stop or enforce the current immigration laws to help reduce the cost. Eliminate fraud and waste. If you don't think there's fraud and waste, there's 400 individuals that are being sued right now for tens of billions of dollars for defrauding Medicaid, Medicare. It's just absolutely incredible. The fraud that's going on needs to stop. Secondly, repeal Obamacare. Sale of health insurance across state lines. That's critical. Where I can buy, I can buy a car in Texas. I can buy a car in Indiana. I can buy a car in Kentucky. Wherever the cheapest car and the best deal. Like a buddy of mine, I work with him at work. He drove to Indianapolis because he found the exact car with the special package on it that was $2,000 less than the one here in Cincinnati. So he drove an hour and a half, took a half a day off, drove an hour and a half, picked it up, came back home. I said, man, I saved myself $2,000. I got everything I wanted.
Awesome.
Why can't we do that with healthcare? We can. In a capitalist society that we live in, we must. This was a big one. Imagine being able to deduct on your taxes health insurance premium payments. How about that, Carrie? If corporations can deduct insurance on their taxes, why can't I, John Q. Public? And that's where Trump, the businessman, the leader, knows what he's talking about.
Is that a proposal from him?
That's on the books.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that. That's a great idea. See, it's a little tiny that's actually a tiny detail when you really stop and think about it, but it's big.
It will be huge in the
big.
end.
It's something that these people that don't live in the real world, senators and congressmen, they don't even have to live under these laws that they're putting us.
They're not even under Obamacare.
Right.
They exempted themselves.
They exempted themselves, and I don't think that a law needs to be made to prohibit that. I think it's already unconstitutional. I believe, and I need some lawyer out there, some constitutional expert, to let me know whether I'm right or wrong about this, but I believe that there is an equal protection under the law, which is basically it's saying that you can't apply certain laws to certain people and not to other people. It has to go across the board.
Regardless of who they are, and Nancy Pelosi and most of all of Congress and the House and the Senate should all be in prison for insider trading.
And I do remember, too, John Stossel thinks that insider trading should be allowed across the board.
I don't have a problem with it. It's just that it's on the books now, so they should be punished for the law currently on the books. But I do agree with agree with you.
Stossel says that if you allow for insider trading, then people can use that as a like, for instance, Procter & Gamble.
We'll come back, folks. Don't worry.
Procter & Gamble.
We'll side.
If it was known publicly that a bunch of workers were selling their stock all at once because they work there,
right,
and executives and all that then that's an indicator to the rest of the public that something's wrong. So that's probably a good thing that
we know as well as they know.
Yeah, it's just more information. Hey, look, all the insiders are selling Procter & Gamble. Maybe the place is on fire.
Right.
Something like that.
Hey,
so anyway, go ahead.
Okay, real quick, just a couple more things that Trump has proposed. This is all about his health care bill. Health savings accounts. Health savings accounts, just real quick, what you do from I guess the day you start working or whatever it is, you slowly put a little bit of money into this account, this health savings account, and you get a credit card, and you can only use it for health care purposes. Glasses, medical, dental.
So it's almost like my dad's 401k. He was explaining, I don't have a 401k myself, but he, they would do a matching or whatever for his work, and and basically it was a bunch of money in stocks. And even though he can't take that out, he can move it around in stocks and mutual funds all he wants. So he could say, I want this amount of money here, this amount of money here, and then he could change that around. He just can't pull it out until he gets to a certain age.
Correct.
So
However,
in health savings accounts, it would be like you got this money.
There's a minimum. I would say that there's a minimum amount that is contributed by you, the John Q. Public. I also believe that the government would actually either match or contribute as well. At the age, if I started doing this when I first started working at the age of 15, when I first started working at 15, this health savings account in the market from beginning in 1970, no, I'm just joking, folks, beginning back in the 90s all the way to today, would be a phenomenal account. It would be loaded with so much money because I've never had any major.
Right.
I mean, I had an appendectomy, but that was only like $3 or $4 grand, like $5 grand.
We'll say that you came down with cancer right now. Well, at your age, having not had any major problems all those years, you'd probably have a bunch of that.
A boatload of money. And something else about those health savings accounts, too, that you can't do with the money you put in for with Social Security, which you should be allowed to. Majority of black men never collect Social Security, and their families.
They have a lower average age of
correct.
Yeah.
So all the money from the black community, from black men working their entire lives, all that money gets absorbed back to the government.
Yeah,
they're
there's something
taken
wrong with
from
that.
you, man.
Yeah.
So
Social Security is total communism.
Right. So healthcare savings, you can roll that over when you die to your children.
But how long does that last before they say, hey, let's not let them roll?
Think about that. 2-3 generations out, your children will be born with $500,000 in an account. It's possible.
It's possible, but it makes me cringe because I start thinking
it's
trust
ripe.
fund baby.
It's ripe for no. You can only use it for medical. Only.
I know, but why? Here's my
only
problem.
medical.
We're getting into debate here because it's all philosophy. All philosophy here. Somebody's going to say, well, you were born with $1 million in medical that was passed down to you through your family. And this guy over here was born in a poor family and got nothing. But they were both just born in America. And why should that one person born of this family,
Well, if they all donate a minimum amount, and nothing is equal in this life that we live in, there is no equality. It just isn't. Nothing's equal.
Well, you
have the equal opportunity if you take that opportunity. If you don't work,
I have a weird philosophy.
You don't get nothing.
I have a weird philosophy about this. Like my dad will say, I should be allowed to do whatever I want with my money. When I die, if I want to give millions of dollars to my kids, if I have millions of dollars, then I should be allowed to do that. That's true.
Or give it to a cat.
Or I think my wife actually received in a will packets of ketchup. Not kidding. True story, bro. True story. Packets of ketchup.
It's a crazy ass aunt.
It was an aunt.
It's a crazy aunt.
She was definitely a little off her rocker. So the point is that it's hard to make the case for equal opportunity when one person is born with, a giant trust fund or a giant inheritance, and they're just born. They're zero. They are 1 month old. And they have this giant inheritance coming. And another person's born, they're 1 month old, and their parents are just broke. So it's just my philosophy. I know I'm in a very tiny minority.
Yes, because here's the other problem, because it looks like an envy situation, because the guy that I work for, he's the son of the grandfather that started the corporation 100 years ago.
Right. And it's not just envy.
But he was born into a very wealthy corporate family, and I was not. I was born into an ignorant.
And I'm not saying, I'm just jealous.
No, I'm joking.
Oh.
No, I was born into a family that isn't wealthy. My dad was an engineer. I had a stepdad.
But he's done really well for himself. He's done
very well for himself. But we're not that capitalist family. We're not that go out and build your company family. That isn't what we were taught.
Right.
You go to work for 42 years and you retire
and get your $40 watch.
You get your $40 watch, and that's what you do. You go to college for 4 years, you work for 40 years, and you get a $40 watch.
Right.
The 444 plan.
It's 440.
Yeah, plan.
Unless you get a $4 watch. You could get a $400 watch.
And let me tell you, folks, that's not happening. There's something going on in the market today where people are not staying at companies for 40 years. And nobody, this is part of the book, by the way, part of the book that's coming out soon.
If I get to write a chapter, I'm going to cause a firestorm with my philosophy.
And when I say baby boomers, not all of you, my mom's a baby boomer. I'm not including
They're all
her.
horrible
My dad's
people.
No, just awful people. But no, the majority of the baby boomers, and my dad even complains about them, look at the ones that are retired down in Florida that put steering wheels on Chevy cars for 40 years, and now he lives the life of O'Reilly. Anyhow, tax savings accounts, I agree with them 100%. Ben Carson loves them. I think it'd be a phenomenal thing. Definitely better than what we got now. The tax deduction of your, I said that of your premiums, of your insurance would be another incredible thing. And price transparency from healthcare providers. Folks, I don't know if you've ever asked a doctor, how much is this going to cost me?
Never.
I do it.
I did it.
I do it on
when I was in the
purpose
hospital.
because they look at me like I've got a third eye.
Yeah, me too. When I was just in the hospital last week, he said, I'd like to have a follow-up visit with you next Wednesday.
How much that going to cost?
I did. I asked him how much that was going to cost because I wasn't 100% sure if the VA would cover that. I knew that the emergency portion of it.
But maybe not the follow-up care, right?
Right.
You might need to go to the VA for the follow-up care.
Exactly. And he said, no, I need the money. I think you can.
I just bought me a new Porsche Cayenne.
Oh, man, I'm telling you.
It's the fourth one.
Oh, my gosh.
In my 6-car garage, I still need 2 more to fill it.
2 more what?
2 more cars.
To fill
my 6-car garage. I'm
one for every day of the week?
Yeah, man. Because I don't do anything on Sunday. Don't work, don't nothing.
He's not a Sunday driver.
No, he's not. So state-controlled Medicaid. So take all the poor and the Medicaid that the states are now providing, make every state responsible for their own Medicaid and not the federal government or not other states. I like that idea. And free markets for drug providers.
What if a state said, "Oh, we're responsible for Medicaid? Cool. I don't think our people need it, so we're not going to have Medicaid."
Better move.
No, I understand that the people have to move, but what if the federal government tries to say something like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. We're giving you responsibility for it, and you're not showing responsibility. You're showing negligence by not offering communism to your people."
Oh, well, then they need to hire or vote in John Kasich.
So allow them to not.
We need to lend them John Kasich to make it happen.
Oh, that crybaby. He looks like I don't know what he looks like. He's just a terrible person.
Okay, so check this out real quick, folks. This is going to blow your mind. This is the fake news, fake poll news. I don't know why I have it jammed in here, but I have it jammed in here. Fake poll news for CNN. CNN conducted by SSRS, I have no idea what that is, finds a growing share of Americans want to see the GOP abandon its effort to repeal and place Obamacare. Okay, so they did this poll, and it finds a growing share of Americans want to see the GOP abandon the repeal and in place of Obamacare. Okay, now this underscores it all. Majorities across party lines want congressional Republicans to aim for a bill with bipartisan support. 77% of them, that's what they find, 77%, 8 out of 10, want a bipartisan support. Okay, this article goes on to say overall 35% of the poll say that they like Donald Trump and the Republicans Congress to give up their plan for repealing or replacing Obamacare, up from 23% who said the same in March's survey. Okay, now listen to the words. They're saying a majority still favor some form of repeal. So at the beginning of this article, it says majority of supporters want Congress to abandon Obamacare. That's not true. The majority want them to work across party lines. But they're trying to make it look like a majority of these people polled want them to give it up. It's the way they word it, and it's the way they set it up. It's very, very confusing.
The way I'm reading this, they're trying to say that the Americans want them to abandon the effort to repeal Obamacare.
Correct.
Not abandon Obamacare.
Correct.
But you're saying that that's not true.
No, that's true. Correct.
That is so they don't want them to abandon. A majority of Americans don't want them to abandon.
No, because when you add it up, when you get down to the bottom of the article, it says 34% would prefer to repeal with replacement, and 18% favor repeal regardless. Add those two up, and that's 52% want it gone. In some form or fashion, 52% want it gone.
So the wording they used was repeal and replace.
Correct.
So they figure if only 34% want the repeal and replace, that 66% want to abandon it. But that's not true.
Correct.
Because 18% want just full repeal.
Yes.
That is so fake news. Who wrote that?
This was from
CNN, fake news poll.
Right. And
of course. That is so devious.
And Hedge. I
don't know. Hedge something.
Hedge.com. He was the one that wrote this article exposing the fake news, laid it out. It was absolutely incredible. I had to bring that up. I had to expose that for what zerohedge.com. Zerohedge.com.
Oh, wow.
Exposed this. He tweeted it out. I got it on my timeline because I follow him. Folks, you got to follow him.
So just to simplify that, because that may have been...
Sorry, it was a little confusing, but that was the point, for them to confuse you.
Imagine it's 33, 33, 33, which is almost 100%. 100%.
A third.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a third.
So let's say Group A... There's A, B, and C. Those are the groups. Group A wants no repeal and replace. They just want to keep Obamacare. Group B wants a repeal and replace. And Group C just wants it just totally repealed and nothing. They're trying to say because Group B is repeal and replace and only represents a third of the country, that the other 2/3 want to abandon completely the repeal and replace, when it's misleading because a third of that entire group that were surveyed wants repeal completely. Now, in this article, it says 18%, but just for simplicity's sake, we got Group A, B, and C that are, let's just say it's equal across the board. Each one of those groups represents a minority of the whole. But if you say that Group B is repeal and replace and Group C is just repeal and that's it, then you can't make the argument that a majority of them want to keep Obamacare.
Right, you can't,
No.
and you shouldn't put those two people in a. That would be an entirely different.
It's fake
poll.
news.
It would be
That's
an
totally
entirely
fake
different
news.
poll.
Well, no, Group A wants to keep Obamacare. That's only 33%, right? This is my hypothetical.
Right.
So if Group A wants to keep it, which is only 33%, the other 67% clearly don't want Obamacare anymore. But this poll misled the reader by making it sound like that's not the case at all, and that it was 66% that want to abandon the attempt to get rid of Obamacare because only a third of them wanted repeal and replace.
Right, it's sleight of hand using words.
Yeah,
using words. It's
not even sleight of hand. It's a bold-faced lie.
Using mental gymnastics.
Oh, my gosh.
So I threw that in there because that had to do with the healthcare, the fake news. So CNN is absolutely hardcore trying to make people believe that people want to keep it. And you may have seen this throughout the week. And I was throwing up in my mouth reading these titles, these articles. No, people want to keep their Obamacare. I'm like,
no. No way. Obamacare has been...
Do what, dude?
Obamacare has been the worst thing to happen to America since probably Vietnam or World War II. We won World War II, but the fact that it happened was obviously a really bad thing. Hundreds of thousands of Americans killed.
So last week we talked about two people showed up dead and possibly linked to the Clintons. Again, two fresh bodies.
That is just amazing.
Did you hear about this one this week?
Maybe not. I don't know. I don't really remember.
Joseph Rago, 34 years old, found dead.
Okay, what happened to him?
What's interesting about that? New York police discovered the body of Joseph, 34, at his East Village apartment at 7:40 p.m., according to the Journal. The Pulitzer Prize winner, he won a Pulitzer Prize, and the Pulitzer organization awarded him journalism's top honor because of his well-crafted, against-the-grain editorials, multiple, challenging healthcare reform advocated by President Obama.
That doesn't make any sense because we know that awards like the Pulitzer Prize are awarded to people who advance progressivism, leftism, Marxism, communism.
So I'm wondering, how did he get the award to even begin with?
Doesn't make any sense. There obviously a huge mistake was made, and sounds like they tried to write it.
So you think that's fake news too? Possibly fake news?
Well, you said he was found dead.
Yeah.
And he was only 34?
Yeah.
That's really young.
Yes. He won the Pulitzer at 30 years old for the writings, multiple editorials against Obamacare. How did he get a Pulitzer for bashing Obamacare?
I'm beside myself. Doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, if they're giving him Pulitzer for that, they should be giving Mike Cernovich a Pulitzer for Donald Trump Jr. said that.
O.J. Simpson said he lived an event-free life, and they let him out. I mean,
even going to the NFL and being one of the greatest NFL players of all time would be a little bit more eventful than a non-eventful.
No, that's non-eventful. He was a simple.
He was a movie star. He was in Naked Gun.
Yeah.
That's a little bit more eventful than non-eventful.
He slaughtered 2 people.
Whoa! That's allegedly, sir. Allegedly. Wow.
OJ running free, running wild and free.
Allegedly. He had also a little bit of an armed robbery thing going on, and maybe kidnapping.
Yes.
A little bit of that.
Armed robbery and kidnapping.
Anyway.
But he's innocent, folks. He's innocent. So we're going to get into a little bit of the demagoguery. Did you hear about the demagoguery? I'm going to touch on a little bit on
every day. Every day I hear demagoguery.
Scaramucci again.
Okay,
a little bit of Anthony Scaramucci. He visits Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper is on there, and he's
Jack Tapper, huh? Good old Jack Tapper.
Good old Jack Tapper saying some crazy nonsense. I'm blocked once again, folks. At Brian P. Smith, personally blocked by Jack Tapper. I feel honored.
You should get a plaque.
Yes, I'm thinking about rewriting the bio.
But we've been blocked by Rosie.
Everybody's blocked by her.
No.
She does.
That's not a trophy.
She does everybody.
That's like the rite of passage. It's like the first rung of the ladder if you're going to be on Twitter is to get blocked by Rosie.
Thank you, Kekistan Rose. He on the message board if you want to be a part of the show. 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Go to smithradio.info. That'll take you directly to the Spreaker page where we broadcast from. And click on the link, and you'll go directly to the message board live, and you'll be a part of the message board. Thank you, folks.
Don't forget to share and like the broadcast.
Hashtag Smith Lord. If you go on Twitter and you search hashtag Smith Lord, capital S, capital L, with a Y in the middle, Smith.
Something like that. I don't think capitalization. It's not case sensitive.
It's not? Okay, no. Good. Kek has tons and tons of memes up there that are actually absolutely hysterical. So you go there and see those. And Jake had Scaramucci on, and they went head-to-head, battling head-to-head.
My colleague Andrew Kaczynski noted that back in January 2016, you wrote a rather scathing op-ed for FoxBusiness.com, clearly directed at Donald Trump, saying, among many other things, quote, unbridled demagoguery has driven the GOP to an inflection point from which there is no turning back, unquote. A lot of people, Anthony, will read.
You're saying, you're rolling eyes and rolling heads. I'm rolling eyes and rolling heads. If you could see the video, Scaramucci is rolling eyes and he's shifting and he's about ready. It's like
he's ready to respond already.
It's like being at the horse race. And they're in the cage getting ready for the doors to open. And
some of them slam up against the sides. And people who bet on horse racing will say that you should just cancel your bet right then and there if they do that. Yeah, you want them to be calm because they end up wasting too much energy. So you're saying that Anthony Scaramucci is wasting energy right now.
He's only on for a short time. It's only a quarter mile, folks. Get right through this
quarter mile. Normally a horse race is a whole mile.
Yeah, that's just a short little sprint.
40-yard dash.
That op-ed, they'll read the tweets that you spent the weekend deleting that were pro-gun control, pro-action on climate change, and they'll think, wow, this guy's willing to suppress everything he believes in order to get close to power.
Oh, whatever. That is such a horrible way to say that. That's disrespectful to use language like that. This guy, just to get close to power. There could be other motivations just to get close to power. You know what that is? That's projection.
Because that's what Jake would do. to get close to power. He would
That
sell
sounds
his
like
soul.
Cooper. That's not Anderson Cooper? Like,
No,
the voice sounds like that. That's Taper? Jake Tapeworm?
Jake Tapeworm.
Oh, wow. Well, clearly that makes more sense because even though I mistaken his voice for Anderson Cooper, I would be surprised to hear Anderson Cooper project his own need to be close to power that way. He's from one of the most he's a Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt, yeah.
Yeah.
But you'll never see Jake and Cooper in the same room together.
Oh, they might be the same person. Yeah, that happens all the time with us on Smyth Radio. We have to always, like Mad Cow and Chris Hayes. They are the same person. So anyway.
What is your answer? What is your answer to that?
That's a ridiculous Washington sort of narrative, right? Some of the smartest minds and some of the smartest political leaders have changed and evolved and adapted their opinions.
Yeah, but you evolved from thinking Donald Trump was a demagogue to thinking he wasn't a demagogue.
I didn't say that Donald Trump was a demagogue. Where does it say in that article that Donald Trump is a demagogue?
You were referring to demagoguery.
The
whole article.
I love you. Let me tell you something about demagoguery that I don't like. Okay, demagoguery. Okay, creates a lot of nonsense like this. Okay, so we're going to dial back all of that stuff, and we're going to focus on the on the agenda.
People should read the op-ed.
Read the op-ed.
And you're very clearly referring to Donald Trump because you refer to him. You refer to this person who's going to win the primaries, who's a populist, who experienced several bankruptcies, and you tie moral bankruptcy to Donald Trump.
Okay, Jake, you're doing a really good job on this, and so you're trying to nail me. You're going to play the gotcha thing with me right now. But it's fine, Jake. I don't care. You know who doesn't care? The president doesn't care.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much boils down. I don't know. I'll have to read that op-ed myself to really be able to tell you whether or not he was just, skirting the issue. But here's, early on when they first hired him on, suddenly people started finding old tweets, old op-eds, and then they started putting this stuff up. And I have a passion. One of my biggest passions is to expose to the world and get the world to believe the truth about climate change. And when I found out that this guy was a global warming alarmist, I was like, oh, this is devastating. But it turns out that if you listen to his interview this morning on Deface The Nation, which we didn't play that part of it, but he says earlier on that he is working for the president, and so he's going to be serving his agenda.
Correct.
Donald Trump's agenda. So it doesn't matter if he believes in global warming. It doesn't matter if he thought that Donald Trump was a demagogue. He's going to be effective as a communications director by communicating Donald Trump's message, not his message.
Right.
And I don't think it's unconventional. I will admit it's unconventional. And I don't discount the possibility that he could actually have said those things in the past, believing them, and now, today, as we speak, not believe them. Am I saying that that's the case? No, but it's definitely possible. And the reason I believe that could be possible is because if you were able to get into the archives of the interwebs and find these giant long messages that I posted on Yahoo message boards back in 2000 and 1999 and 2001.
In MySpace.
Oh, I didn't have a MySpace. I never had a MySpace.
I never had one of those either.
Yeah, I'm actually not young enough for that because by the time MySpace was really popular, I was like in my early 20s. I was way too old for that.
Yeah.
Way too old. You had to be a teenager back then. Anyway, you will find that some of the stuff that I wrote based on my beliefs back in the early 2000s, late 90s, was that I was a bleeding heart Marxist liberal. Totally, 100%. Does that mean that my messaging on Smyth Radio today is inconsistent and dishonest and that I'm lying to you right now? No. It means I changed.
Right.
And that very well could be. I'm not saying that it is the case with Scaramucci, but it could be. And I don't know if that's the case yet or not. I would love to find out that he learned that climate change is a hoax and that he was lied. He was lied to about what Donald Trump was doing. Is he a demagogue? Or is it there's a fine line between being
Right.
a demagogue and a populist. Very, very, very fine line. A demagogue is somebody who's being dishonest. He's trying to motivate you with these ideas, but he's just not being honest about it. He's just saying it because it's what you want to hear. That's a demagogue. A populist is kind of going along with what a majority of the people want, but it's also what you want too. You're not being dishonest about it. So
Right.
there's a fine line there, really fine line. So I think that he might find out, well, you know what? I did think he was a demagogue, and guess what? I was wrong. I believed the fake news when they lied about him, and now that I know him better, I know that you guys were wrong, and so my beliefs about him were wrong. Global warming, same thing. Everybody believed in global warming. My dad got into a huge argument with me when I presented to him the case that global warming was a hoax.
And now
he
you
was
bring
angry.
it, and now you bring it up to him, and he has no idea what you're talking about. I've always been a non-global.
That may be.
Love you, pops.
That may be. I don't know. But here's the point. The point is that now he knows it's a hoax because he saw. You need to see a lot of information for it because there's a lot of evidence both ways. But when you see what's going on with the politics behind it, that's when you realize, oh my gosh, this thing's totally a hoax. That being said, it could be that he's wised up and he doesn't believe these things anymore. It could be. But I also believe him when he says, don't worry about my politics. The fact of the matter is that I'm going to be the best communications director that Donald Trump could have possibly hired because I'm going to serve his message.
Correct. If you want to be a part of the message board, the live message board, you go to smithradio.info, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern Sunday evenings. That's smithradio.info. Take you directly to our broadcasting page on Spreaker. Just click the title of the show and you go right into the message board. Sam Keel's on the message board, one of our
Sam's here.
Longest,
Awesome.
most loyal, well, not most loyal. We have tons of loyal followers. Sam was one of the first. And Sam says that back in the day when HRC, Hillary Rotten Clinton ran against Obama, Jack Tapper said he says that Jake Tapper blasted on Hillary Rotten Clinton and chose Obama over Clinton.
Okay.
And now fast forward 8, 9, 10 years later, he's down with the Clintons. He's okay with Clinton. So he evolved. That's what Sam's saying. Sam's like, Jake, you evolved. You went from hating the Clintons to now loving them. So how can I not go from one to another?
Well, I guess if I really had to make an argument on that, I would say there's a difference between loving Marx or Marx Light.
DNC leaks.
Yeah.
Jake was asking the Clintons, what do you want me to ask you? What do you want me to say?
Oh, wow, that's painful. It's so painful that we exposed you for the liars that you are and that you're all colluding. And no, but there's a difference between saying that who do I love more? Do I love Karl Marx or Engels? Like that's a very, it's a very, very slight difference there. And to dog all over Clinton because you like Obama better, it's very nuanced. But to say that I believe global warming is real and now I'm supporting an agenda that's anti-global warming, that's a pretty stark contrast, a very stark contrast. You definitely have to suspend disbelief, I guess, to make that happen. And I mean, he seems like the type of person that's going to be able to pull it off.
I didn't come up with this originally, but it makes sense to me. Rush said earlier, either this week or last week, that made a very good case for it. That global warming is back in the picture again. Global warming is back in the picture.
You know why? Because it's July and we're having a heat wave.
Right. So more people die because of cold than heat. You can get out. If you can't get out of the cold and you can't start a fire, you just might die.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're in the heat, you can get in the shade, which doesn't cost anything.
Right.
You can jump in a swimming pool, some water, kind of cool down a little bit. A lake, go jump in a lake. Take a long walk off a short pier.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Mm-hmm. I could see that.
So maybe temperature rising can grow more crops, feed more people.
Yeah.
So temperature rising, global warming might be a great thing.
It most likely save lives.
Okay, I just watched a documentary on something called Titanoboa.
Never heard of it.
Titanoboa, his prehistoric dinosauric snake.
And I got one for you, too, after this.
It's a boa constrictor snake, they believe, lived during the dinosaur period. 45-foot long boa constrictor with like a 3-foot diameter.
Oh, my goodness.
And it would wrap around gigantic alligators and kill elephants.
Okay. If it's that big, I could see that.
Right.
So what about it?
They went on and on. It's so fascinating. By the end of the documentary, they hint. I am not lying to you. This is on Netflix. They hinted and slowly tried to turn the corner. Global warming causes larger animals. So if we keep heating the earth up, these Titanoboas are going to come back.
I see what you're saying. That everything will get so big.
Yes.
You know what? I actually saw another dinosaur show that made the exact same case. So I believe it. They said the reason there were so many big creatures back then is because the earth was a lot warmer.
Yeah, they can't find a snake, a boa constrictor. They can't find anything larger than like 24, 25, 30 feet. Like nothing is bigger than 27 feet. There's a specific number. Anywhere in the entire world. And the largest snakes are in the warmer temperatures.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, the boas and pythons live in the Amazon and all that kind of stuff.
So if we bring the Amazon to Cincinnati.
Yeah, we could have those.
We could have boas everywhere.
Awesome.
All day.
Yes. That's what I was hoping. No, I just ripped myself out here.
Did you just come apart?
Yeah, I came apart.
Just came apart. So if you're on that. Twitter, #SmithLord, and the Memenator has posted climate for the past 250,000 years.
Yeah, and what does it show?
There's climate.
the climate changes. Okay, so climate change is real because that's called the Earth. That's what happened. But it's not caused by man. And if it was, we'd be able to stop it, which we can't because we can't start it. We can't change it. We can't do anything like that. It's most likely caused by the sun and maybe even the movement of the heavenly bodies. But the same case was made in another dinosaur show where it was a lot warmer, and then when a meteor hit the Earth, huge one, it covered the entire Earth in this dust, which blocked out a lot of the sunlight, which caused a cooling event of the Earth, which caused a mega massive extinction situation where all the large animals all went extinct, including the dinosaurs. So global cooling is a lot more potentially catastrophic than global warming for sure, 100% of that. And, it's funny that this show that you watched would have been set before man was there, so man doesn't have any control over it. It just happens.
No,
if the Earth gets too hot for humans, then guess what? We're just going to die, and that's going to be it. But why should we suffer at the hands of elitists who will not have to live under these conditions because they'll always have the means to live above it because of something that we ultimately don't have control over?
Right. No, you have no control. Well, not only that, but if you get rid of God, get rid of Christianity, then people will then start to believe in some of these nonsensical things because they have nothing else to believe in.
Because human beings are naturally spiritual. There's a belief system that happens to humans. And so all humans, I mean, you take an atheist and you befriend an atheist, all right, and you get to know them. And you get to talking to them and get them to open up and tell you about themselves and then become friends. And all of a sudden they get warm enough with you that they start telling you some things that they believe. And you realize this guy's totally religious.
Yeah.
They could believe in luck. Luck is not something, there's not a god of luck up there that's going to give you good luck or bad luck or whatnot. If you're an atheist, you don't even believe in God. But suddenly, all of a sudden, they believe in the god of luck or something like that, or ghosts. I mean, there are atheists out there that believe in ghosts. It's like, what are you talking about? So, here's a big one. Aliens. Most atheists believe in aliens.
That's crazy, man.
And I'm telling you right now, Earth is it. Take it from your amateur scientist here on Smyth Radio. Earth is it. And I'll make this what?
Name that movie.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
That was Usual Suspect?
Yes!
Yeah, that's right. I can actually see who it is. Okay. So, yeah. No, yeah, that was...
It's the truth. It's the truth, folks.
Right.
It's out. Evil is out there, and we've got to call it for what it is.
Yeah. So, global warming is a hoax, and there are no aliens out there. Unless God made a second world, but I don't believe it. I think this is it. This is it. This is the center of life in the universe.
The thing, too, is that we're passing through here to pick up as many bodies as we can to go to the better place.
There you go.
That's the whole goal. So there's no reason for anybody that says, like the Google says, oh, there's somebody living today that will live forever. You know what?
No, that's not true either.
Well, you can have this place. I don't want to be here forever, man.
Yeah, that would end up being your own little hell.
Dude, watch The Lost Boys. Or watch Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah, that's there.
Dude, Interview with a Vampire, he lived in hell. No, kill me. Get me done.
Yeah, they were depressed on having
Wooden stake.
Yeah, they were depressed on having to live on Earth that long. And, it's a lot of fun during your normal lifetime, and then if you go too far, then it's no fun.
It's too far. So, anywho.
Too much. It's like last night, you can't get rid of people.
No. Oh, man.
You overstayed your welcome, buddy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, when we're talking about Scaramucci, we're talking about what's going on with him running the circuit, being around town. He did delete some tweets from back in the day, and one of them had to do with gun control.
Oh, boy.
However,
very liberal position on that.
He attempted to clarify that and say that gun control, I'm a pro Second Amendment, but these inner cities got too many guns.
Yeah, that's a liberal point of view. He'll have to clean that up.
But this is the worst one. Don't go to CNN because CNN are playing these, unless you want to. CNN are playing nothing but Scaramucci all day. It's a rerun Scaramucci fest at CNN, and they're playing this one. This is the one that everybody's talking about, that Scaramucci said about Trump, and now retakes it back.
Another hack politician.
You call Donald Trump a hack?
He's a hack politician. The politicians don't want to go at Trump because he's got a big mouth and he's afraid he's going to light him up on Fox News and all these other places. But I'm not a politician. Bring it.
Right, so why is he resonating?
You're an inherited money dude from Queens County. Bring it, Donald.
And this is fast forward. They brought this up in the White House press briefing while he was up here, and here's his answer.
It up every 15 seconds, okay? One of the biggest mistakes that I made, because I was an unexperienced person in the world of politics, I was supporting another candidate. I should have never said that about him. So, Mr. President, if you're listening, I personally apologize for the 50th time for saying that. But here's the wonderful thing about the news media. That was 3 minutes of my life. He's never forgotten it, and you've never forgotten it. But, I hope that someday, Mr. President, you'll forget it.
So he went on with Chris Wallace and expanded on that and actually said that him and Trump laugh about that now because at one point in time, they know that they can talk that way to each other and it's not fisticuffs.
Right.
It's not throat slashing. And Scaramucci talked about this with Chris Wallace. He told Chris, he said, hey, why can't we just disagree, get it out there, but not be cutting each other's throats for life.
Or talking behind each other's backs, which is really what Scaramucci's not happy about. He talked about, one of the big things he talked about was that he's going to make sure that anybody who leaks information is fired. And a lot of leaking happens when something happens that somebody's not happy about and they're too cowardly to confront, let's say, Donald Trump on something that they didn't like. And so instead, they cowardly talk behind his back, and it gets around, it gets leaked out, it gets to the press. And he just said flat out, we're going to be firing people, everybody if need be, anybody that does any kind of leaking whatsoever is going to be fired. And I thought that was a breath of fresh air. I have no idea why there haven't been mass firings from day one. It's really, really frustrating that they have allowed so much leaking to happen.
Speaking about firings, do you want to hear what Krauthammer had to say about Spicy?
Sure.
Well, Sean Spicer, we hardly knew ye. I feel sorry for Sean Spicer. I mean, he's a guy, I think his problem was he was just way over his head. This is a guy who was not prepared, and for a particularly difficult president. I mean, if he'd had Thomas Jefferson as his president, he would have had a hard time. But with somebody as...
What does that mean? Was Thomas Jefferson an easy president? What is... Why did he pull out Thomas Jefferson out of everybody?
But he said he would have had a hard time with Thomas Jefferson.
Even Thomas Jefferson had a hard time.
I think he didn't do a very good job of explaining what exactly that meant, because you could take it either way. Either that even if it was Thomas Jefferson he was serving, he would have had a hard time. Or was he saying that, well, Thomas Jefferson, a lot like Donald Trump, very outspoken and combative, and I don't know. I never knew Thomas Jefferson. I never seen any of his sound clips or anything like that, so I'm not sure.
Curio and changeable. As President Trump, I think he had no chance at all. It began really badly with the first event, which was trying to pretend that the crowds at the inaugural, which is a trivial issue, were the largest ever in history, which they weren't, and he did it angrily. And then it got worse where, I mean, he actually referred to concentration camps as Holocaust centers. This is a man who should not have been in that position. And I think he's sort of liberated now. It's good for him to be somewhere else.
He's been liquidated.
Keck on the message board says that he refers to Jefferson so much because he remembers his old buddy.
Okay.
Sam Keels calls the Hammer as a cucktard.
Yeah. You know what? I forgot about that. Thank you, Dr. Krauthammer, for reminding me. His very first thing that he came out and talked about was about the largest crowds ever, and it was if you go back and listen to our shows back then, you'll hear it. I thought it was the stupidest argument to try to make.
We even talked about it, and we explained it, but we suspended it. But it doesn't.
It's such a stupid.
Should have walked away. And he got wrapped up in how many people. I think I told you about that. He was doing a press conference, and they said, "So how many people were at the FBI?" You loaded the front row. The whole front row was nothing but your people. And he said, "Okay, it wasn't. All right, some back there. Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to go back up, get the roll, and who was in the front row." So he continues with the press conference. He gets the memo back. He said, "Okay, I just got the memo. Nobody of Trump's people were in the front row or the second row." What about the third row? Do you want the third row, the fourth row? How many rows you want me to go back? Okay, go get the third row. It was a 2-hour-long press conference. It was like the 3-hour-long press conference.
So he was getting micromanaged, basically.
He was getting owned.
Can you tell me who was in the fourth row and seat 6?
Yeah, because I really want to know. And I want seat 7.
Well, he blew it big time by saying biggest crowds ever at the inauguration, which I don't argue that he was wrong about that. What I thought was funny was that in the attempt to try to make this the big lie. This is the White House lying to us. They lie to you because they'll tell you things that aren't true.
They're already lying in there. They just got in office and they're already lying.
In the course of trying to make that argument, we found out that the pictures were very, very strategically taken of the inauguration of Donald Trump, in order to show that nobody was there and nobody cared about him being elected
different times.
president.
He wasn't even there.
Well, no, it was way earlier, like a half hour or more earlier than the inauguration. It was like 11:30 they took the pictures, and he didn't go up to get inaugurated until noon. But the pictures of the Trump or the Obama administration's inauguration was while he was up there raising his hand on the Bible. But I don't make the argument that, yes, we know that Trump's numbers were bigger. I don't think we can make that argument, and I don't care to make
other
that
than the
argument.
fact that he said on TV and around the world.
Yes, so
which
yeah.
is true
Right.
because this was there was.
I just thought it was funny
The
that
interwebs.
we caught them in lying again. We caught the fake news being fake news by using fake pictures, and we explained how and why they were fake. They weren't photoshopped; they were just taken at the wrong times. Same thing with the polls. James O'Keefe, when we went up to his suite during CPAC, had the CNNleaks.com.
Right.
That was all about how CNN would cherry pick polls that were taken months and months earlier and would publish them as new polls. So they would say, hey, Brian, go get me that poll from 6 months ago that shows Donald Trump trailing by 12 points.
Yes.
And then they would publish it as new poll out shows Trump trailing by 12 points. Just minutes away from election time. It's like, this is so fake lying on it. So they did the same thing with the photographs of the inauguration. So I'm glad that it exposed the fake news again, but Krauthammer's point was absolutely correct, that he just was flipping and flopping all over the place, and he was out of his league.
I agree. But I will say this, and I told this to our White House correspondent earlier today. I think I liked Spicy because he was the first, if you will, to go after the media the way he did. He was the first. I don't remember ever seeing any White House spokesperson ever go after the media that way. Something that she did bring up to me was that he gets heated, and you can see when Spicer gets perturbed, his blood pressure goes up.
It's like you could see the veins raise up from his neck.
And that's why SNL gets away with, there's Sean Spicer grabbing the podium and beating people with the podium. Because in their mind, he's on the edge of breaking. He's about ready to snap.
What's her name? Melissa Carthage or something like that? Whatever.
Oh, a woman played him and jammed a whole box of gumballs down her throat.
Okay.
I don't know when Spicer chews gum, but
I don't really get it. You know, the comedy on Saturday Night Live makes zero sense
anymore. No, definitely not. So we were talking earlier about the leaks in the White House. I know Kekstan Rose posted on the message board that Breitbart made the comment or reported on Scaramucci saying, if he gets down to it, I'll fire everybody. Which is cool with me. Don't bother me at all. But this is Scaramucci on White House leaks.
I don't like about Washington, if we say one syllable or one sentence, this guy said something bad about me, then all of a sudden they have to be my mortal enemy. I don't think that's how it works in American business. I can sit across the table from somebody that worked with me in my company that I founded and say, here are 5 things that I don't like about what you're doing, and we have to fix it. And by the way, tomorrow I'm going to have a meeting with the communications staff and say, hey, I don't like these leaks. And so we're going to stop the leaks. And if we don't stop the leaks, I'm going to stop you. It's just really that simple. And so for me, let me just finish, Jake. So for me, I would tell people that that's the president. He's 71 years old. We're not going to change him. By the way, last time I checked, he won the presidency quite handily. He's going to win it again in 2020. He's our guy. And so learn how to work with and operate with him.
Now, if you hear him say, remember he said, if you don't stop the leaks, I'm going to stop you. Well, for all of you sports fans out there, stop is boxing lingo for knocked out. If you stop somebody that knocked, that is actually the nomenclature. So he will knock you out. And
Teo Scaramucci.
Make sure that your Periscope is running at that time too, because that would be classic. Viral video right there.
Yeah, if you were watching it, not if you were the one actually getting your beep handed to you.
Right.
You don't have your lunch handed to you like that.
Yes, I am a boxing fan, and they use the word stop.
Okay, so there's a link in the message board. If you're on, folks, I'm telling you, the message board is where it's got to be at. Sunday evenings, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern, smithradio.info. Click the title of the show that says live. You go right to the message board.
Yeah, make sure that you share this too, so that way we can get more people on there. It's a lot of fun.
Thumb it up, like it, share it to your friends and family. If you're on Twitter and Facebook, share it twice. So Keck Rose did say that Breitbart reports Scaramucci. If White House comm staff keeps leaking, I'm going to fire everybody. And he posted the link to Breitbart. So if you're on the message board, you could have that link. You go right to Breitbart and read it yourself. See, this is breaking news. We're a live and evolving show. So when new things pop up on Sunday evenings, which does all the time, there's a lot of breaking stuff. And we've scooped things on Sunday, and we've scooped the media Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because we go live Sunday evening, and we're able to get that. Sometimes we get in a pickle to where we're live on the show, not doing research. I'm not reading the news. We don't have CNN playing. And sometimes we miss those big stories. But that right there, that's an awesome story. We're talking about Anthony Scaramucci, the new White House communications director, on leaks. I will fire everyone if I have to. Hey, that's fine with me. These leaks have to stop. We've got to cut this out. It's got to stop. I believe that Scaramucci was with Jake again earlier, and Jake was pushing and pressing him on leak. Well, the leaks? Well, what other leaks are you going to stop? And he's like, hey, that's out of my realm of control. I can only control this portion of the White House. I'm in charge of these individuals, and I will stop these individuals for leaking. We've got to get the rest of the deep state to stop leaking. That's out of his control. So I believe him. I think he's. Yeah, I'm looking forward to him too. I think this is going to be a really good situation with Scaramucci. He's turned out to be pretty good now. I've got Scaramucci on with Chris Wallace this morning. This morning with Chris Wallace. Scaramucci sat down with him, and it was 16 minutes long. And so I watched the whole thing. Chris Wallace is doing the gotcha thing a little bit,
which is so annoying.
He's playing and then he started to get uncomfortable. Well, I know I'm not. No. I mean, I had to. I mean, everybody's saying that about you, man. I mean, don't hit me or anything, right?
Don't hate the messenger.
Yeah, I mean, that's how he was coming off. Chris Wallace has gone totally spineless. But anyways, he says finally at the very end, he says, "Okay, Anthony, one last Russia question." Like, crap, man, are we done with the Russia thing? So there's one last Russia question.
Okay, one last Russia question, and I want to talk about agenda. In a tweet this week, the president said this weekend. He asserted his complete power to pardon. Question, if he and his people have done nothing wrong, why even talk about pardons?
You see, this is one of those things about Washington, and it's the convolution and the nature of things. I'm in the Oval Office with the president last week. We're talking about that. He says he brought that up. He says, but he doesn't have to be pardoned. There's nobody around him that has to be pardoned. He was just making the statement about the power of pardon. And so now all of the speculation and all the spin is always going to pardon himself and do all this other nonsense. The president does not need to pardon himself. And the reason he doesn't need to pardon himself is that he hasn't done anything wrong.
Okay.
And so for me, we can microanalyze every one of the president's tweets. That's fine. We can go in that direction. But what I want to do for people is get it back on the president's agenda. This is a jobs president. This is a president that's going to help middle-class families, lower middle-class families. You want to talk about gaps, Chris? There is a wide income gap that many elites do not feel, but the president feels it, and members of his staff feel it, and people in the middle of America feel it. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to put policies together that close that gap. If people want to talk about these nonsensical scandals, I'll let them do that, but I'm going to be missile-locked on focusing on the president's agenda and helping people to understand the president the way I know him and the way I love him.
He's the first person to ever respond to this Russiagate that way, and it's interesting. You know what he's doing? He's doing the parry and having him fly right by him. He's basically saying, "Oh, you're talking about Russiagate again? That's fine. You're allowed to do that.
You do that all day long.
Yeah, go ahead. I encourage it. I hope that you guys do well with that." So anyway, what we're doing is, and then he talks about the agenda and all that kind of stuff. So very different out-of-the-box approach. It's basically everybody else who's a Trump supporter was like, let me attack your fake Russia hoax. Let me attack that. And I think that the reason why, if this was months ago, I would have said, Scaramucci's making a huge mistake here. We need to blow this up. We need to attack it. Here's the thing. By the time the American Pravda came out with Project Veritas,
right,
James O'Keefe, that was it. That was there was a dead cat bounce. It bounced off the ground, and the bounce up was when they came out with the Donald Trump Jr. revelation, where they exposed the meeting that the DNC set up a year ago with their Russian operative that was allegedly connected to the Kremlin, even though Putin said, I have no idea who that woman is. And and the woman also said, I'm not really connected to Kremlin. But it's been reported that way even after both of them have come out and said, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Anyway, so this whole thing was set up by the DNC. DNC operative with Russian ties was set up with a meeting, and that was the dead cat bounce. That was their last, and I knew it was their last play. And to prove that I was right, that's it. Russiagate's over. It's over. That was that was putting all the silverware and all the cannons.
Right.
They fired it out. It was a year-old story that they personally set up. They knew it all along, and they didn't find this. They didn't discover this like, oh, we've got breaking news. They didn't even bother. They knew this for a year, and they said, should we use it? Should we use it? Should we use it as an October surprise? You know why they never used it? Because they knew that as soon as they came out with this story, that everybody would realize that the Russiagate hoax was more on the Democrats than on the Republicans. It's them. They're the ones with the connections to Russia. So they threw in the thing. They shot it out. Russiagate is over, right? Now that Russiagate is 100% over, any new talk of Russiagate by the mainstream media, what did Scaramucci say? He didn't say, oh, that's fake news. You're lying, and this is why you're lying. He said, no, go ahead. You can talk about it all you want. We're not going to talk about it ourselves, and that's fine too. But if you want to talk about it, that's perfectly fine. We're good with that.
No problem
and
over here.
I love that approach.
No problem over here.
I love the approach because at this point in time, knowing everything that the public knows, there's no longer any need to dispute Russiagate because everybody that knows anything in politics knows how much of a complete hoax it is.
Right. Absolutely. And now we've got Robert Mueller this whole week. And we've been going back and forth with people on Twitter. Trump can pardon whoever he wants, whenever he wants, for whatever he wants. Who cares? Obviously, he's not going to do it, but it's interesting that he throws that out and mainstream media goes ape. They go nuts. We finally got him after all these years. No, sorry, man, you don't. Robert Mueller, and this is something that Rush brought up this week, and Carrie and I talked about it on the phone, and it's very interesting to see his take on some of these things. It's just amazing. Mueller, the deep state, Mueller taking tax dollar money, setting up the Operation Offense, if you will, to combat Trump in 2020.
Oh yeah, that was the Rush Limbaugh.
Mueller's
thing.
got all the money he wants. He's got free reign. He can investigate. He can look into anything, anywhere. There's no rules, no boundaries, which need to be put in play. Yeah. They need to make rules and they need to make boundaries. And before all of this, they need to remove this entire special counsel because there's no crime and a special counsel can't even be convened if there's not even a crime.
Well, they're not going to investigate it as a crime, according to Rush Limbaugh, and this was a revelation. This is a huge revelation this week. I'm glad you brought that up because I totally forgot about it until you brought it up. It's big, and you need to really seriously think about it, and you need to oppose it wherever you can on Twitter, and just keep talking about it, because I think Rush Limbaugh nailed it when he said that this Mueller investigation is a state-sanctioned, a U.S. sanction, a government-sanctioned opposition research against Donald Trump for the Democrats for 2020. Because they're going to use all the tax dollars. They have a blank check, and they have unlimited, there's no boundaries. They could look into Trump and all of his family members and all of their business dealings and everything, all the financials, all the way back to when Donald Trump was born. And then what they're going to do is, and we know this because of history, recent history, that the deep state is going to take all that information and leak it all like a floodgate to the Democrat Party in order to use any part of it against Donald Trump in the 2020 election cycle. And it's all state sanctioned. This is your tax dollar money at work for now. Normally, it costs millions and millions of dollars, huge manpower, all this kind of stuff, in order for the GOP or the DNC to do oppo research. They have to hire people, detectives or former cops or whoever's smart enough to do it.
What better to have somebody already inside?
Oh, they have the whole government.
Right.
So the whole Mueller investigation thing is the Democrats, the DNC, oppo research for 2020 and possibly even 2018, depending on how far off to the side they could go. 2018 is all the midterm elections, so that might be hard to do from investigating a Donald Trump standpoint. But for 2020, yeah, they have unlimited ability to go anywhere they want under the guise of doing research for possible Russian collusion, ties to Russia, and all this. And it's ridiculous because they're talking about connections to the Kremlin or to Russia of any kind that goes back to times when Donald Trump would not have even realistically been thinking about running for president, right?
Right.
You were talking about 2010, 2008, 2002, whatever, 1985, 1970. They'll go back as far as they need to, and they'll look at all of his business dealings. And what they're going to do is they're going to make commercials using this information, this state-sanctioned. And it's not just tax dollars, state-sanctioned. I'm talking about the use of every single government department that's in existence.
It's at their disposal.
It'll be at their disposal in order to do all the oppo research against Trump for 2020. And they'll use all of it. They'll come out with commercials using this information, such as how much he earned over the course of several decades, and then they'll say, he's just one of these upper 1%ers, these 0.1 or 0.0001 percenters, and you're just a little guy, and you shouldn't be voting for a rich guy because rich people are evil, and that's why they're rich, because they use their evil against people to steal their money, and that's typical leftist Marxist talk, and they'll make that's what they'll do.
When if you think you're like, oh, come on, Brian, Kerry, come on, man, how much money does that really? I mean, they raise millions and millions and and we're talking about this on the message board. So if you want to be a part of the message board, this is breaking information all day, all night. SmithRadio.info. Last month, it has been reported the DNC ran a deficit. I couldn't remember how much it was. And thank you, Keck Rose. That's awesome. $3.3 million deficit in the month of June for the DNC.
Yeah, so they need the government to do their oppo research.
So what did the RNC do for the month of June?
They in deficit too?
No, record-breaking, raising $14+ million.
That's awesome.
Trump sent me out an email, and I got some stuff in the mail asking for donations. Every once in a while, I throw them a $5 or $10 or something like that, whatever.
But doesn't it feel different to give 5, 10, whatever now today to what amounts to be the Trump movement for the most part, politically, than it was to give $5 or $1, to a Romney campaign?
Oh, that was so hard.
I didn't even do it. I said, I'll tell you what.
I don't think I did either.
I'll volunteer for you guys. I'll go door to door. I'll do whatever. And we did. We went.
We helped out. Physically helped out.
But I'm gonna tell you something right now. I just don't feel good about giving you some green. Just don't
and now we know why, because they're as deep as
because you don't know where that money's going. But when you see results like you see in the Trump administration,
when I saw the efficiency, he spent a fraction.
Yeah.
A fraction of the money you combine all the money spent, and Trump probably spent. This is no joke. Probably spent 1% of what everybody else spent. You add up all the money that was spent, and Trump probably spent 1% of that. That's how efficient he ran his campaign. And that made me excited. And it got exciting when he said, I'll pay as little taxes as I want to pay. I don't want to pay no taxes, man. Come on.
And that's the right way.
We related to that. And we've got Vanessa and DJT joining the message board tonight. They brought up Sessions and his recusal. I'm kind of torn with the recusal of Sessions recusing himself.
I'm not. I'm not torn about it. He made a mistake.
Well, in the sense, when I say I'm torn about it because I want to call him an idiot, but at the same time, I want to think, damn it, dude, did you guys not think this out? This is probably one mistake that I wished that Trump might have gave him a call. Because we heard he was talking about doing this. Maybe he could have gotten a call into him and say, hey, Jeff, quit screwing around, man. And then why would you even recuse yourself?
They said Al Franken, Stuart Smalley.
That wore the diaper as a grown man, diaper with a little teddy bear and a bottle as a grown 45-year-old man.
Yeah, they said that Stuart Smalley scared him in the initial congressional interview or whatever about it, and that he said, you know what, just to be safe, because, one wrong step, one wrong move, and the Congress will send you to prison. And so he said, just to be safe, I'm going to go ahead and recuse myself. And his argument is that he took the job already thinking he wouldn't have to recuse himself. And then after Stuart Smalley scared him. And I'm sitting here thinking, all this time I thought, you look at Trey Gowdy and you look at Jim Jordan and all these people that are just bulldogs and they're untouchable like Elliot Ness. And they're just fighters like no other. And I always put Sessions right in their wheelhouse. And it turns out he was all show. He was all talk. He was all, all show and no go.
Right.
It was all talk. He's good at acting the part. And then when it comes time to do it, it's like putting one of them actors that plays the part of a Congressional Medal of Honor winner in World War II movie. And then throwing him out there in the trenches, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh my God, you guys put me in a war! Somebody hide me! Oh!"
Mary Lou just brought up something interesting. Do you remember the last time a Democrat recused themselves?
Well, Mueller hasn't yet.
I can't think of a single Democrat. I said plead the fifth all day long.
Yeah.
But I don't remember any of them recusing them because they want to be in the game. They stay in the game and they know that someone's got their back to not go to prison.
Well, part of the problem is the Republicans are too cowardly to go after somebody who should have recused themselves legally.
Right.
But they didn't. And that's what Sessions was worried about, that if he didn't recuse himself, that he might be tripping over the line in the sand that puts him on the wrong side of the law, and then they'll go after him, and next thing you know, he's in prison.
Right. So here's a couple of notes real quick that I jotted down when I was doing show prep of Robert Mueller. And these are just bullet point kind of notes. Robert Mueller must be removed, and this investigation of no crime is illegal. No federal code against collusion if there ever was collusion with Russia, there's nothing on the federal books that says that's illegal. Now, taking money from Russia to fund your campaign, Hillary Clinton, is illegal. Taking foreign donor money from China, from the Ukraine, from China, all these places around the world. The Clintons did do that.
Right. Well, here's something else, and we talked about this on a previous episode. So some of you guys listening, this might be a memory jogger for you. And that is that these people like Mueller, FBI directors, whatever, they serve the president. The president hires them and has the authority to fire them.
As we've seen.
Right. They are a part, a leader, if you will, a boss man of the executive branch under the President of the United States. It is not their job to find evidence against their boss. That's not their job. It is a myth. It's a lie that the Democrats say that, oh, well, you know, the FBI, they should really maintain independence from the president so that way they can investigate the president.
They say that now when they're not president.
They are liars. They are saying that because they're trying to get you to turn the gun on yourself. Hey, you got a gun. You got a gun. You know what you should do? You should not control your hand. You should let your hand do whatever it wants to do.
You know, like the other day I was driving down the street and I passed a gun shop.
Yeah?
And I heard this voice, come inside.
It's the guns.
I need you to buy me.
They have a soul.
Here, pick up some of my friends called poets.
They have an evil soul. No, have you seen Evil Dead 2 where the hand got possessed and it was punching him and everything and it was breaking plates over his head? Oh my gosh. You haven't seen Evil Dead 2?
No, but I did see Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, yeah, there's a little bit of that in Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, his arm was out of control.
Evil Dead, it turned into a comedy because of it. Literally, this guy was grabbing himself in the face. He was punching himself. He was out cold, and his hand pulled him across the kitchen floor.
That is hysterical.
To reach a butcher knife.
To finish him off.
To finish him off. And right as he was about to grab the butcher knife, he stabbed his own hand. He's in this huge fight with his own hand. His hand did a wrestling move, a slam. Slammed him.
Body slam.
Yeah, you've got to see this movie. One of the greatest movies of all time, Evil Dead 2. Not 1, 2. 2 is actually kind of a remake of 1, but anyway.
So they got it right the second time
But here's
around.
my point. Just like Evil Dead, they're trying to get you to believe that you should really let your hand have the independence that it should have, even though it's holding a gun. And if that means that the gun points at you and fires, you know what? Your hand should maintain that level of independence.
Your arm should be independent from the other arm. Your legs should be independent from themselves. And, you know, whatever happens, happens. If you can't function, that's okay.
But what's the reality? The reality of the situation is we all know that is complete silliness. You always maintain control of your hand, and if you have a gun in it, you're not going to turn it on yourself. That's suicidal, literally. So the point is that the president has control of the entire executive branch, including all of the different departments that are within the executive branch. We know, and I made this argument on that previous show, that you are allowed to plead the fifth. You do not have to offer up investigators evidence against you. And I believe the same could be extrapolated to an entire branch of government. As president, you should not be forced to have one of your departments under your control to go and investigate evidence against you in a crime. I think you should be able to tell the FBI director, hey, I know you're investigating this thing, and it may turn up evidence against me, even though I'm innocent. Therefore, forget it.
He can.
He can do that. He can. He absolutely can do that. And it's a myth. If anybody tells you it's a lie. It's a lie.
Why this has not been called off is beyond me.
because Donald Trump is not he's new at this. I think he's new at this, and he's afraid.
Dude, I just almost dropped an F-bomb. Dude, that's how frustrated I am.
Okay, so
with the fact that you just said that, I'm about ready to lose my mind.
Okay, well, check this out. I think that he's worried from a politics standpoint that if he were to fire Mueller and call off this entire investigation, that politically it would make the public view it as an admission of guilt, which then could be used against him in 2020. That's what I honestly believe is going on here. So I think he's trying to maintain this charade of letting the FBI do what they do to prove his innocence, right?
Right.
It's kind of like if you know your innocence of, say you're being accused of stealing from a store.
Right.
You know you're innocent. So you tell your friends to go out and find all the evidence that proves you're innocent. I think that's what he's thinking. And if he were to call everybody off and say, nope, no more, that would kind of make you look guilty. That being said, there's people out there that may listen to this monologue that I'm giving and say, well, wait a minute. Then we have a dictatorship.
Yeah.
No, we don't have a dictatorship because we still have the impeachment process. At any time, if a crime is ever discovered, there's actually two different ways you can get rid of the president. Number one, if a crime is discovered, it's the Congress's job to get rid of the president. If they cannot find evidence of a crime and cannot convict and get him out of there on impeachment, then he could lose the 2020 election. If the people believe that he's guilty, they'll vote him out in 2020. So I believe that he should call it all off, tell the people this is just a big witch hunt. The people will believe him and reelect him in 2020.
Right.
That's what I believe.
Absolutely. So Comey wrote 2 notes hoping to trigger this special counsel. So Comey, breaking federal law, should be in prison.
100%.
Told on himself, causing this special counsel to happen.
And he admitted it.
He admitted it. Podesta. This was from WikiLeaks this week. WikiLeaks posted up a meme with words and, title stuff, but posted up the email of John Podesta. WikiLeaks showed Robert Mueller delivering highly enriched stolen uranium to Russia in 2009.
Mueller?
In with the Podestas. In with the Clintons.
This whole thing, this swamp is so disgusting.
Okay, it gets even better.
Oh,
Mueller,
no.
good friends with CrowdStrike founder, and they vacation together. Wasn't it CrowdStrike that had that was holding Clinton's emails and gave the email and told the FBI what the emails said? Oh yeah, we've got those.
That was the third party?
Yeah, that was. I think CrowdStrike was the third party. Mueller is vacationing with the guy, the founder of that CrowdFire.
CrowdStrike?
Or CrowdStrike. Sorry, CrowdStrike. A little bit deeper, Tom Fitton, if you look him up on Twitter, at Tom Fitton, Fitton. Fusion GPS, the creators of the fake dossier, of the Russian dossier, he tweeted this out, pleads the fifth. So we've got more people on the DNC, connected to the DNC pleading the fifth. And this one's going to blow you. Dude, you ready to be blowed?
Yes. We're going to be censored.
The Mueller team being put together by Clinton lawyers, right?
Mm-hmm. Which right there, you're just like, what?
Okay. The guys, Preet, Preet Bharara, Bharara. I don't know if you remember this, but Donald Trump fired this guy early on, a while ago. Deep state guy, bad dude, not a good guy at all. He's been hired to help out in the Russian probe against Trump.
That is such a conflict of interest.
How is that even?
Oh my gosh!
So now he works.
That alone is fireable for Mueller. That alone.
So now the guy that Trump fired. Okay, I work at a job. Say I work at Kmart, right? And I get fired for taking jugs of milk and throwing them down the aisle. because it was fun, right? Trying to knock old ladies down.
Okay.
Or the turkey throw.
Yeah.
Where you bowling for turkeys. Okay, anyways. I get fired by head management, senior management.
Yeah.
I'm ousted. Couple of months later, the guy who manages the cashiers underneath all those dudes gets me a job back in managing money. Come on. If senior management fired me from this corporation, and then I go in the side door and I get a job managing the money from a lower manager, that would never work. Folks, we're talking reality. In a company in real world, that would never, ever happen. And listen up.
How about this?
When we were in the military, did we not say, we said something to the effect of, when we get back into the real world, or when we get back into, what did we say?
The civilian world?
Yeah, the civilian. When we go back there, it was always there was a major separation of ideology and thought process, government versus civilian.
Yeah.
It was completely different. This is one of those complete differences that are absolutely asinine.
Well, how about this analogy? Imagine an NFL player gets fired by the coach.
Okay. Okay.
He gets kicked off the team. Nobody else picks him up. But he was kicked off for, a very personal differences between him and the coach.
Oh, it wasn't like he knocked his wife out in an elevator or something?
Could be something like that.
Could be something like, okay.
No, he knocked out the coach's wife.
In an elevator in Vegas.
Yeah. So he then goes on to become a referee and gets hired on as a referee to referee every one of that coach's games. That's what that's like. That's what that's like.
That's a good one. Yes.
Telling you, man.
Okay, so remember earlier on in the show, I told you I'd show you Reuters, Washington. In 4 lines, they faked me out with fake news. So listen very carefully. This is the beginning. Normally they hide this stuff at the end of the article. This is the very beginning of the article. You ready?
Yes.
U.S. investigators examining money laundering accusations against President Donald Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, hope to push him to cooperate with their probe into possible collusion between Trump's campaign and Russia. 2 sources with direct knowledge of the investigation said.
Direct knowledge, not just familiar with the case.
They're not familiar. Dude, these dudes have direct... This is such a lie. This is so fake. I'm sorry. You got to trust me. There is no way that they talked to not one source. They upped the ante.
They got to say 2 sources.
It's
no longer hearsay because it's corroborated.
Right. It's corroborated. 2 people talked to 2 more people. And they all said that what they said was real. The words that were coming out of their mouths were real. So you see where they're going with this. U.S. investigators examining money laundering. Like, where does this come from? Okay, now we got money laundering? Who's laundering money? Where did money come from?
And what are you going to do about that? Let's say he did. Let's say he had this huge money laundering.
And they're claiming he did, and they're going to use that to push on Mueller to give up the goods on Trump. Read it.
U.S. investigators examining money laundering accusations against President Donald Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, hope to push him to cooperate with... Oh, so they're going to use it as...
Yes!
Hey, Paul, since we know that you laundered money, we're going to let you... We may go after you on that, or maybe we won't. Maybe we won't. It depends on whether you're going to cooperate with our probe into possible collusion between Trump's campaign and Russia. And by the way, we know this because 2 sources with direct knowledge of the investigation said it. Whatever.
Hey,
this is.
Can you do me a favor?
What?
Can you hold my wallet?
There's a probe in there. Or maybe there isn't.
Whoa. Before you put it in your back pocket.
Depends on how well you cooperate with that probe. Oh, my goodness. Oh. So,
dude.
How about you guys out there listening? Do you guys cooperate with probes?
Very well, if
my
at
gosh.
all. So, Louis Gohmert. Do you know Louis?
Yeah, Louis. He's the guy he's a lot of fun to listen to.
He's out of Tejas.
Texas, yeah.
Tejas.
Okay.
If you're from south of the border, you call it Tejas.
Tejas, okay.
Yeah. So he's from Texas. Louis Gohmert was on Lou Dobbs, and Lou Dobbs couldn't get a word in edgewise because in this 30-second rant.
He talks.
Louis he's done. Louis is so done. Stick a fork in Louis. Louis is done, and he's not playing anymore.
We know now for sure there is no collusion between this administration and Russia. Let's at least stop that facade. Let's stop that distraction. Get rid of Mueller.
Well, what about
he is dirty. He created all kinds of problems. There were people. We celebrated the 1-year anniversary of Orlando, and Mueller could have stopped it, but he purged the training materials in the FBI, so FBI agents don't know what to look for when they're looking for radical Islamists.
What do you make,
That's
Louis?
Mueller's fault.
We blame Mueller for the
Orlando.
Pulse nightclub?
Yes.
Wow. You know what? That is gloves coming off right there.
And WikiLeaks says Mueller was working directly with Podesta, the Clintons, and Russia.
Oh, we know
with
that.
uranium.
Yeah, if you guys want to keep talking about Russia, let's just start opening up all kinds of investigations on all the different Democrats that were involved in collusion of different types. Maybe not so much election fraud or election influence, but just flat out corruption.
Yes.
Giving away uranium, all these crazy weird deals that they work out or punish Russia with. They kicked out all the ambassadors out of America.
Dude, that was right before the election.
Right before.
He's like, you know what? All you ambassadors, all Russian ambassadors, out.
I'm surprised Trump hasn't reversed that this early. I mean, I would have thought that'd be like week 1.
Well, then that would show everybody you are down with Russia.
Right.
And that Russia did win the U.S. election.
They are in charge.
Russia is in charge. Speaking about Russia in charge, you said earlier we were talking about Obama going the route with Hugo Chavez and becoming dictator for life.
Yeah.
It's just a side note, folks. Did you hear that Putin jokingly said this week, I think maybe I should be president for life?
No, who said that?
Putin.
Well, he is going to. What, do they have elections or is he there for life?
Well,
he doesn't have term limits.
He got himself in, man. That's all that matters.
So he's there for good. I mean, how do you not vote for a guy that rides a horse with no shirt on?
Yeah, and Obama on the back with a bicycle helmet.
That is so funny. That was one of the greatest memes ever created.
Dude, that was incredible.
Oh my gosh.
So you've got the fake news coming from Reuters. You've got Louis Gohmert blowing up, exploding. Mark Stein put out a meme this week as well. He said, quote, "We have a situation where civilized societies do not do, where they investigate someone in order to get something on them." Think about that. I'm going to come over to your house, Carrie, with the FBI.
Uh-oh. I don't like
and
that.
We're going to investigate you to find something.
You got to have some sort of an accusation. You have to have probable cause, and then you have to have a warrant signed by a judge.
No, man, we live in a banana republic.
Oh, come on.
And the peel is off the banana.
And they threw it right next to your foot. Like, why don't you take a step forward, buddy?
Oh, no, don't make me slip on it.
Yes.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. So we were joking about Maxine Waters running for president.
Oh, Maxine Waters.
She said, wow. Dude, where did that?
That's her voice. That is how she talks, right?
Here it is.
What is wrong with them? I just don't quite understand. Or what is wrong with them? I just don't quite understand.
Oh, you could make a music video out of that.
That was her.
You put a beat on that.
I apologize. That was already started halfway through the soundbite. Here's the beginning of that.
If you can find it.
Go ahead, Max.
Do you have new soundbite equipment?
And call it like it is and recognize that evidence is pouring in and it's growing. Or what is wrong with them? I just don't quite understand.
Okay, I'll take.
She just glitched it. So she said,
"What is what?" Yeah,
and she looks up in the air like she's having a stroke. Anyways. And I make fun of these old, fogey, strokey kind of people because they've been in power for too long.
It's too long. You got to retire at some point, right?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Earlier this week, she said, "Oh no, I'm not running for president unless the millennials want me to, and if they want me to, then I will."
She's playing the millennial card.
But I'm not doing it unless they want me to.
So she's playing the millennial card.
But I'm not doing it. They want me to.
Well, it's been widely reported that she is a millennial favorite, which is so weird. Like, what happened that she said something or appeared somewhere or whatever that has got the millennials all fired up? Because she doesn't look like somebody that the millennials would be all fired up about, but whatever.
Well, and they say they're fired up about this one, too.
Affordable. There's a reason. Affordable. The reason.
That's Nancy Pelosi talking about the Obamacare being. It has to be. It is affordable. Check it.
How old is that sound clip?
About a week or two.
No.
Yeah,
it's not affordable.
Oh, you don't in her world.
You mean in her fake lying world?
Dude, she is so delusional.
Oh, my goodness.
So these are the people that are running these are the puppets of the DNC being ran by the deep state, Soros and Mueller.
Okay.
Of sorts, maybe, I guess. I'm just throwing that stuff out there. Crazy nonsense. And what was that other? Oh, let's touch on Venezuela real quick.
Yeah, you love talking about Venezuela, and I like talking about it too because I love talking ideology, and they were full blown communists, and now they're kind of in that state now, and you do better describing it than I do because you actually research this stuff.
Go back 20 years, and Venezuela was a beautiful example of what capitalism does.
Only 20 years ago?
Maybe 25. Where are we at? Hugo Chavez was elected in 99.
Okay.
So let's go back 25 years. Venezuela, incredible amounts of oil. It was privatized. No big deal. I mean, it was a great country, South America. Put in Hugo Chavez, dictator of sorts, turning the tables, rewriting the Constitution.
Turning it into a communist nation.
Right. Turning it into a banana republic, to a socialist nation, to a communist nation. Just running it straight headlong into a bridge abutment.
Right.
This comes from zerohedge.com. 1,000% inflation.
Oh, ouch.
From 2010 to 2016. It went from, and this is the example that I gave my kids and my wife, and this example I'll give to you because this works really well. If you take an American dollar bill in 2010 and you went to Venezuela and you saw an item on the shelf, say it was a book.
Okay.
And the book cost $8.35.
Is it the Communist Manifesto?
Yes. Yes. We will say it is the Communist Manifesto.
Okay.
So you've got an American dollar and the book says 8.35 Bolivar. That's their name for their money.
Oh, that's their monetary unit. Okay.
And you give them $1, they would say, perfect. That's even. No change back. No more needed. They give you the book. $1 American dollar for $8.35 manifesto. So you return. You haven't been there in a long time. It's been 6 years. and you lost your book. Somebody stole your manifesto. So you go back to Venezuela, it's the same bookshop, and you ask for the manifesto, and they say, oh, it's right there. You can buy it. I've got a $1 bill from America, and I look at the book, and the price has changed. It's not $8.38 anymore. It's $1,005.
That sounds like a big jump.
You say, man, this must be a mistake. I've only got a $1 bill. And he looks at you and says, oh, that's perfect. No change needed, no change given. That's an even exchange.
$1?
For the book that's $1,005 in 2016.
So if you have an American dollar, it's good to go.
Good to go for $1,008.
But if you had their money, you would need the 1,000.
You would need 1,000 bolivola.
Oh my gosh,
okay,
that's terrible.
That's 2016. 2017, 1 year later, somebody stole that book from you.
Uh-oh. Okay.
And you've made some money and you're jet setting around the world. So you take a trip back to Venezuela. 1 year later, you go back to the bookstore, you get that same book, and the price has changed.
It went down.
No. It was $1,005. It was $8.35. $8.35.
Not dollars, but whatever.
Bolivola and 35 bolivolas.
Okay.
It moved in 6 years to 1,000 bolivola. 1 year later, 8,790 bolivola. And you tell the guy, I only got $1 American dollar. He looks at you and says, that's perfect. No change needed, no change added.
Well, I'm glad to hear that the U.S. dollar's still strong there. Gosh. Oh, my gosh. So pretty much their money is damn near worthless.
Well, you could take it to a gallon of gas. Gallon of gas 7 years ago was 8 bolivola. A gallon, that same gallon of gas is now 8,790.
Yikes. Which is weird because wasn't their big thing that they became energy independent because they were drilling off the coast and everything?
Right. The government took all the oil companies, made them all government.
And they were bragging because they were like, we don't buy from the Middle East anymore. We don't buy from America. We don't buy from any other country. We're perfectly self-sustaining and screw you guys. We're the best country in the world. And then fast forward a couple years later, and boom, it's just
and
imploded.
Hugo Chavez blamed George Bush for his cancer.
That's right.
For his cancer.
Yeah.
So the AP reports on this. Thousands are gathered in the Venezuelan capital for a march towards the embattled nation's Supreme Court in an escalating push to stop President garbage truck driver Nicolas Maduro from proceeding with his plans to rewrite their constitution.
How does he want to write it, though? I mean, maybe he wants to write like a new enlightenment.
He loaded the judges, so they're his judges, and now he's going to rewrite the Constitution and have the judges approve it.
Okay.
To give him more power.
Oh, give him more power?
Of course.
He's not giving the power back to the people.
Negative Ghost Rider.
Oh.
This is within the last few months.
That's the problem with government since civilization started. It's an attempt by the most powerful person. It's like a game to them. Who can win the tournament? Who's going to be the last man standing? And when they get there, it's all about accumulating more power and making it so that their power lasts longer and that they become more rich and that they can do this without being assassinated and all this kind of stuff.
I mean, 5, 6, 7,000 years ago, whatever you believe in, whether it be the Bible, whether it be the Garden of Eden, whatever you believe in, go all the way back to monkeys turning into man. Whatever it is, go back to your beginning.
Evolution's a hoax, by the way.
Correct. I agree 100%. But it started with King of the Mountain.
Ah, yeah.
I don't think they're allowed to play that game anymore.
We do it in the wrestling room.
Okay. This game there's a mound of sorts.
Okay.
And everybody they all run at one time to see who can be the first one at the top and stay at the top.
Wait, they don't just have an election and vote on who gets to be at the top?
No, this is man at the hill, or King of the Hill.
King of the Hill. Yeah, I mean, you could elect a king to the hill, right?
No. This is all by pure unadulterated testosterone and strength.
Physical strength. Okay.
Right. And so when you're on top of the hill, if you get to be the king of the hill, everybody comes running at your feet to pull you down.
Right, right.
So you do everything you can to stay the king of the hill. That's where it began. That's where we're at right now. Venezuela has gone straight barbaric. They have turned the tides of 1,000 years of evolution to roll it back to where people cannot afford bread, milk, water. They're rationing. This was a real article. They're rationing toothpaste.
Well, you could just let your teeth get all yellow.
Yeah, but they're in the Americas. That only happens in London.
They got to take turns on the toothbrushes, though, because there's only a couple per person, or there's like one per couple of people, so they got to share a toothbrush.
Yellow teeth are only accepted in Europe.
Yeah, especially they have dentists in England. If your teeth are too straight, they'll put braces in to make them crooked. Because that's the thing.
And then they use that Halloween paint to paint your teeth yellow.
Yes, if they're too white, they got to do something about it. Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh.
So this by zerohedge.com. Follow them on Twitter at zerohedge and go to the website.
Real quick before we move on, Vanessa brought up a good point. The Venezuela thing is so ridiculously obvious. I have no idea how these liberals can't see the writing on the wall with the socialized medicine. Socialize anything. Yes, that's the big thing. I believe it all boils down to this, and this is so true. Ideology, philosophy, government, all this kind of stuff, even American constitutional, just the understanding of it, the government and understanding the freedom and all that. This is something that takes many, many years and a lot of education to really learn. When I was in my 20s, I was clueless about all this stuff. I didn't understand the Enlightenment period. I didn't understand where the Constitution came from. I just thought that, this guy named Thomas Jefferson was locked in a small room with a candle and said, come up with something. And he just come out with it. I didn't realize the context behind it, the Federalist Papers and all this stuff. It just takes a lot of learning. And so these young people don't get it. And and of course, communists have infiltrated and totally control our education system, so they're being propagandized to believe, not by explanation, but just by little words and stuff, that socialism is good. Did you hear that, Brian? Did you see that interview that somebody did? I can't remember who it was, where they were interviewing all these college students.
Man on the street?
I can't remember who was doing it, though, but they asked these people, do you think socialism is good? And they're all like, oh, yeah, it's really good. Well, why is it good? And then they would say, oh, it's equality and all this stuff. And then they would say, well, can you define socialism? None of them had a clue.
No, had no idea.
None of them. And that proves...
sounds like something Mark Dice might have done.
No, it was something somebody... It was a viral thing.
Wow.
I'm sure everybody listening to us is like, oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. But anyway, the point is that proves that these people think they like socialism and think it's good because of the propaganda that they had been given their entire childhood. And here they are in their early 20s, and they're out there like, yeah, it's good. Why is it good? Because it's good. I was told it was good. But they never understood what socialism is, what communism is, what capitalism is, what the freedoms that are afforded us, or I should say, I guess given to us by God, but protected by the Constitution. Nobody really understands that. I am shocked to see that people don't understand a philosophy as simple as the three branches of government. It really is as simple as it sounds.
But if it's never explained to you in school, you'll never know.
Well, I remember when I was explaining the three branches of government in school, it was kind of like, well, that's kind of sort of how it works, but it doesn't really work that way. So I left school confused on how the three branches of government are balanced. They say, oh, it's like balanced, like separate but equal. But they made it sound like it's supposed to work that way in theory, but no, not in practice, though, not in practice. But in reality, it really does work as advertised. It's just that people have gotten away from it. So when they see these places like Venezuela, who are totally communist and socialist, they're never explained exactly why it failed. And that's why when Vanessa's like, I don't understand why these people don't see this and say, oh my gosh, this is socialism. We need to stay away from that.
Well, not only that,
don't understand it.
But the President Maduro has blamed America, American sanctions. He blamed Obama.
That's true.
He blamed everybody.
Bush, all of them, yeah.
All of them.
And you know what it is? Let's expand that to more generalized.
And he blames capitalism of America.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
In general, this is the modus operandi of your Marxists. When things inevitably fail, because they will, because we know communism fails. It will fail every time it's tried because it has always failed every single time it's tried, right? They always blame capitalism, and it's just a big fat lie. And one of the big reasons why we started this show was because we need to educate these people, and we can only do it when you guys are sharing. And so please share. We thank you so much for that. We want to do this. I got into coaching wrestling because I knew what positive it did for my life, and I'm going to pretty much retire from it to focus more on the politics full time because I feel that this is even way more of a pressing matter. We need to educate these people on this stuff.
Absolutely, 100%. And just to close out that Venezuelan story from Zero Hedge, last 3 months have seen the currency collapse by 30% as hyperinflationary endgame of socialist utopias once again ends in bloodshed and a nation torn apart. In the past few months, 97 dead, thousands have been injured in protests. The police are instructed to use real ammunition against non-armed citizenry, and this goes years and years and years back. You know, Venezuelans used to have their own guns.
And Second Amendment out the
not
door.
Anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Second Amendment is a part of, the freedom that people thought that we need to have. If you read the actual text of the Second Amendment, it tells you that this is how we secure freedom. In the amendment.
Right. Yes. No, absolutely.
Yeah, in order to maintain a free state. That's what it says right in the Second Amendment.
Hey, so just real quick, you want to hear some fake news real fast?
We always do.
Yeah, this week CNN had Congressman Scott Taylor on, and he's talking about the travel ban.
Okay.
By the way, travel ban, good deal. Thumbs up. Way to go, Trump. And all the Supreme Court justices said it's good to go. So he's talking about travel ban with CNN.
Do you think, as a member of the Homeland Security Committee, it is necessary for the security of this country to put this ban in place?
Well, I'm on the Appropriations Committee, but we oversee DHS, the funding of that.
Thank you for clarifying.
I think that I didn't want to.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Throw any of those, take credit for that. But anyways, I do think that it's important for our security, and I think the people overwhelmingly in the country want that as well too. Because again, just today, the FBI comes out and says that 30% of their domestic terrorism cases that they're investigating are from folks who are refugees. It's important not to label all refugees bad people. That's not why I'm here. But
I was just going to say, Congressman, it's time to go, but I think the TV gremlins did that for us. Thank you.
Dude, they got him. They got him.
Always do. When the truth starts coming out, you got to yank that little quarter-inch jack right out of all the equipment. You just got to yank wires.
Folks, if you haven't seen it, Paul Joseph Watson, follow him on Twitter
at hilarious.
Prison Planet.
Yep.
The video that he does blasting CNN for cutting off people speaking the truth. So the whole video, it's just a few minutes long, and it goes through each clip of people being cut off. CNN even cut off one of their own reporters reporting on Hillary Clinton being a bad, contradicting herself.
Right. Well, she didn't get the memo, clearly. You have to be on the script.
Right.
Which is, it's not a script like, here's what you say, and they hand you the script. It's a narrative. And your dialogue has to match the narrative, or else you're fired.
Right. So they cut off their own reporter. They cut off all these different people. They cut. So Paul Joseph Watson goes through this whole video, and at the very end, the bars come up and he cuts himself off.
Oh, that's funny. That is so funny.
Too good. I mean, that's humor. That's funny stuff.
Yes.
Let's see.
How about the tweet before we get out of here?
Oh,
Selena Zito.
Yeah.
So, I'll give Katja the credit. Katja, I have her on notifications on Twitter. You should definitely follow her. And I'm trying to find the tweet right now. Sorry about that.
The tweet that he put out yesterday, 24 hours ago, 3,000 plus likes, thousands of shares, gone viral. The woman, Sita, tweeted out, even the most devout Trump supporters I've interviewed in the past few months strongly disagree with his tweets.
Dislike his tweets.
Dislike his tweets.
So I wrote, I am the co-host of 2 popular shows with hundreds of thousands of listeners who are Trump supporters. This is a bald-faced lie. You are fake news. I got some kickback on that because there are some Trump supporters that say that she does a really good and fair job of reporting. And I said, well, that doesn't jive with that tweet.
It doesn't allow her, it doesn't give her carte blanche to say something so heinous.
False.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be real news, don't lie.
Yes, absolutely. No longer will we put up with fake news. Folks, the shortest 3 hours you'll spend in your entire life anywhere in the world. Share this, like this, show it to your friends, show it to your family. Tell them to give it a diet of about a couple of shows.
Yes.
I promise you.
You know
you'll be addicted.
Everybody loves it.
Good night now.
With unfathomable power.
What kind of power?
Unfathomable. It's without fathom.